Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
I'm going to be honest with all of the listeners and viewers out there. My job is getting harder and harder every day. And the reason my job is getting so hard is that the establishment is going so insane, is bleeding out in front of everyone, and is basically spewing out so many lies and bizarreness in every direction. I don't even know how to respond to it, but I'm going to do my dead level best today to do that. But you are seeing the collective madness of the establishment banking cartel that runs the United States. And at the same time, we are also seeing a marked mass awakening in the last 2 weeks that is accelerating. When you've got Rush Limbaugh coming out saying the evidence points towards a false flag or frame job, as he calls it, in Syria, you know the New World Order is in deep trouble. Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, has come out and said the U.S. is not al-Qaeda's Air Force. Man, I wish I could come up with zingers like that. I shouldn't laugh, though. World War III could start over this. We've got that audio coming up as well. Chris Matthews is then honest and says, quote, Dems should vote for war to save Obama's ass. And I have another disgusting Democrat here in my stack saying that they're going to vote for war out of loyalty to Obama. Well, is your party loyalty a suicide pact? I mean, that's what I'm asking here, because this could lead to a World War III type scenario. Here's the quote. Dem Congresswoman, only reason I'd vote to strike Syria would be loyalty to Obama. And then you've got these top Republicans and neocons in the news lobbying Obama, calling him a wimp, telling him to strike. And you've got elements in the Israeli Knesset doing that. This is madness. Now, the Russians, and we've talked to some of the high-level Russian media people, I'll just leave that at that point, not give you the source, because it was off record. They said the government's basically in bunkers and thinks this could be World War III. The Chinese are moving their fighter squadrons and troops to their western border by Pakistan and India and Afghanistan. You've got Russian troops massing on their border very close to Syria. You've got Obama saying the forces are in place and the B-1 and B-2 bombers have been sent to, Diego Garcia. They're off the coast of Africa, just south of the Persian Gulf. All of this is going on. And you've got McCain. In fact, I forgot to print this article. It's on drudgereport.com on the right-hand side. It's also on Infowars.com. But the easiest place to find it is just go to Drudge. I didn't see it in the stacks I printed for some reason. I want the article with the screenshot of him playing poker. That little turd is playing poker during these hearings where they're pushing for a giant military strike on a country so that the West, the way to get around that stuff being cut off on screen is you guys can just take control of my computer in here, and then you can aim a camera at it, because my computer doesn't cut it off. That on-screen computer, everything we put up is cut off, and I'm just to the point I can't handle it anymore. If you're not a TV viewer, you don't know what I'm talking about. The article with McCain, it just makes me angry even looking at him playing poker while that's going on. It's all a big joke to these old psychopaths. And then there's Kerry's testimony yesterday where he looks like he's wearing a rubber mask and literally looks like a mental patient who's had a lobotomy, sticking his tongue out over and over again. It's sick. Introducing Pro One. All of your... I was 100% sure of it 2 weeks ago, and I began breaking down on air that absolute history, incredibly important history, is unfolding in front of everyone. But now I can't even believe how amazing the times are we're in. The news is even better than I thought it was. There is a seismic, mega important historical awakening because humanity at a gut level, at an instinctive level, at a discernment level, understands that we have very dangerous kleptocrats in control of the West, and that China is very dangerous, and that Russia is very dangerous, and that the world economy is teetering on the edge of collapse, and that when empires are in trouble, major wars are started, and that nuclear war is in the air. The beginnings of World War III are on the winds. The seeds of Armageddon, the seeds of nuclear conflagration are sprouting and need to be pulled up, need to be eaten by the crows, need to be dealt with immediately, because these seeds will grow very, very quickly, like some ethereal Jack and the Beanstalk, and will grow up into the heavens and literally visit giants upon us, pillars of fire, hydrogen explosions. So we need to cut these vines now. And ignorance is the water that nourishes them. Apathy is the sunshine that lets them grow. And we need to deal with our apathy right now. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, the 4th day of September, 2013. A year ago, this September 11th, just 6 days away, 7 days away, we saw the Benghazi event. Al-Qaeda forces hired to run security in Benghazi, going and killing the ambassador and others in a 7-hour-plus firefight so they could get to the 3 giant warehouses behind them filled with all sorts of heat-seeking missiles, anti-tank weapons, French, German, and U.S. TOW missiles. The list goes on and on. Do you feel like something big's going to happen on September 11th? Because my gut tells me, watch September 11th right now. I have never been more on edge than I am, but so on edge now that I'm focused and calm. I've told you in the last few months building up to all this that I have had absolute dread, and it felt like I'm not doing a good enough job breaking down what's happening. Now I've passed into that point where the bully starts the fist fight with you. The fists are now swinging. You're not afraid anymore. You're in the fight. We are entering the event horizon, the point of no return for whatever is going to happen. And that's why you see mainly libertarians worldwide, but also some conservatives and some what you'd call liberals, saying this is madness and it's wrong and it's a false flag and there's no proof and we've got al-Qaeda ganged up on Syria and this is wrong and the house of cards is falling on the globalists. But here's the problem. John Kerry said in his speech before the committee yesterday in the Congress, he said our credibility's on the line, and he means the New World Orders, because if they don't go through with this now, they're going to get routed on every front. Their aura of invincibility is now beginning to implode. Their aura of invincibility is now beginning to collapse. And so let me tell you what they're going to do. They're going to stage false flags. I don't know what they're going to be. An attack on Syria may be the false flag to cover up the fact that they weren't given authorization and it's clearly a fraud. That may be the false flag. They could do anything, ladies and gentlemen. And I sat there last night watching the tape that the crew had taped of Kerry's testimony, and I had to leave. I was so freaked out by it, and I'm going to get into that. John Kerry looked like a certified member of the Addams family. He sat there looking like someone you would see who'd had a lobotomy. His wife looked completely insane and demon-possessed and mentally ill. The members of the Congress that were pushing the war all looked like disheveled, demonic, ringed out, bloodless zombies. The military officers looked like clowns in their little military outfits. And Kerry could hardly talk and kept sticking his tongue out over and over again like a lizard. And his face was jiggling like rubber. And he looked like he was about to pass out. And he would look down and actually have to steady himself during testimony. He was about to collapse. And I just realized these are literally demon-possessed creatures. And I already knew that, but I had to go home, and I could hardly drive home last night because I was so freaked out by watching about 30 minutes of the testimony. Meanwhile, McCain was playing poker the entire time and was caught on video doing that. I mean, these people all need to be arrested. These are mentally ill, power-tripping, insane asylum people who are narcissists and who are on disgusting power trips, endangering our entire planet, waving hundreds of dead children. Now it's admitted it's 400. And everybody's like, where's the 1,400? All the doctors groups say it's 420-something. And they're just like, don't worry about it, we say so. And Kerry comes out and says, all of you, there's video of this, Kerry holds objectors responsible for any future atrocities in Syria. We're going to play that clip later. I've got a flotilla of clips. Imagine, anytime there's another atrocity, when the West started this war, so under common law and common sense, it's all their fault. You start a fight with somebody and they beat your brains out, that's your problem. And it's the same deal. But they're not even using the chemical weapons they own legally. They're not even signatories to the convention. But the point is they didn't use them clearly. The al-Qaeda rebels have been caught 3 separate times using them on record. But they want to sit here with no evidence and say Syria did it. And then this guy tells us that it's our fault. That's what they said about Sandy Hook. If there's ever another school shooting, gun owners, it's your fault. No, it's your fault for making the schools disarmament zones. It's your fault for putting al-Qaeda in Syria and starting this whole thing. And here's the deal. The jig's up, folks. We had the will the last 2.5 years to put out the truth that al-Qaeda was the main force. Now it's mainstream news the last year. Now everybody knows about it. And now Ted Cruz says, quote, the U.S. is not al-Qaeda's Air Force. Rush Limbaugh's coming out saying it looks like a false flag, and he's investigating. You've got Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Glenn Beck, Pat Buchanan, all of them. Suddenly Fox News correspondents are talking about it. Ron Paul tries to talk about it, and they cut him off on CNN last night because they're desperate and they're scared because good people are starting to stand up on their hind legs, folks, and not roll around on our bellies in front of these globalist scumbags. Look at Matt Drudge leading the charge as well. I've been retweeting these all day. I can't quit reading them up on his personal Drudge, Matt Drudge, @Drudge. We have him up on Real Alex Jones. Follow us there as well. And he says, why would anyone vote Republican? Please give me a reason. Raise taxes, marching us off to war, again, approving more NSA snooping. Who are they? Exactly, who are you? Look at this. It's now authoritarian versus libertarian, since Democrats versus Republicans has been obliterated. No real difference between parties. Boom, it's all happening. Drudge, poll on resolution for Obama Syria raid. 1,000 plus votes in 1 minute. And it goes on and on and on. Putin is the leader of the free world. Yeah, how weird is that? That Putin's saying, okay, I'll attack Syria with you, basically, if you can show me proof they did the chemicals. And he suspended the high-powered surface-to-surface anti-ship mega missiles that the ships have a lot of trouble shooting them down. He suspended those being shipped to Syria and said, okay, just show me proof, and I'll get behind a strike, knowing full well they don't have it, to the point of we have to say Vladimir Putin, compared to the crazy bankers and globalists and narcissists we have running things, is now the leader of the free world. Look at how absolutely flip-flopped all of this is. So that's what's going on that front up at Drudge. Follow him at Drudge. Follow us at Real Alex Jones, where we're retweeting that. And that is exactly what's going on. And folks, this is an orgy, an overload of information. These are the clips I have that are coming up. I've got like 15 of them, okay? Chris Matthews says Dems should vote for Obama. Should vote for war to save Obama's ass. That's a quote. Excuse my French. Obama presses case for Syria, says no boots on the ground, but Kerry comes out and says possibility of boots on the ground. The boots have been on the ground for 2.5 years, folks. And by the way, they don't like it. I've talked to people that have been over there off record, and yeah, they could pretty much be arrested for telling me what they told me. I guess I could be too, with all this persecution of whistleblowers. They've been over there, that's why I told you, in Jordan, in Iraq, and in Turkey with Special Forces training al-Qaeda commandos. What came out in the New York Times yesterday? Brigades of commandos, brigades, in 50-man cells, making up 4,000-man contingents, are being injected every few weeks into the country for the last 2.5 years, trained by U.S. Special Forces, Delta Force, Green Berets, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs are in there with shaved head guys with the big al-Qaeda beards, training them on how to use anti-aircraft missiles and stuff. You think the troops like doing that? And by the way, these al-Qaeda guys will shoot their mouths off about how many American troops they killed in Iraq. You understand? By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I haven't even gotten to our top story yet today. I'll do that in the next segment. Exclusive, high-level source confirms secret U.S. nuclear warhead transfer. And this is our source that is high-level in the Dyess Air Force Base in West Texas. Directly to us, a source known to us for a decade. I'll just leave it at that. And the people on the base were like freaking out that A, there weren't supposed to be nukes on the base, but they were pulled out of mothballs secretly. There hadn't supposed to be nukes there since the 80s. I went and checked it. That was confirmed under a treaty. The B-1 bombers there. And then they loaded them on trucks to send them to South Carolina. And the people on the base were freaking out because there was no paperwork signed. Remember in 2007 when Cheney had them transferred from Minot, North Dakota down to New Orleans? There was the big freak out up over that transfer with cruise missiles. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I don't like being given news like this. It's dangerous. It's dangerous to know this type of information. Okay? I'm just going to leave it. I mean, believe me, this is real. Just like I told you, I had a Navy SEAL source on them all believing that the helicopter was blown up to kill the 23 SEALs, and the family thought that they'd been murdered by Obama to cover up the fake raid. Almost 2 years later, I start getting the families on the show saying they knew that day one. We don't make this stuff up. Believe me, I wish we were. Believe me. Believe me. Believe it. But when I get this info, I'm going to tell you, no matter what happens, you can be guaranteed of that. No matter what happens, I will go 100%, period. And that's it. Excuse me. The reason I start yelling, folks, is this is life and death stuff, okay? And my adrenaline just goes crazy because at a subconscious level, I realize this is combat, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a joke. This is not a game. The article's up on Infowars.com. I'll break it down in the next segment. Obama gave a speech today saying, and just did it again in another speech, that there was never a red line that's made up. We have video of him saying a red line, and the Washington Post with the red line from the 24th of August. Yeah, last August. We're going to get to all that. I mean, everybody knows he said that. This is the level of lying. Then they promised no boots on the ground. There've already been boots on the ground, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, it was August 21st, 2012. I was going from memory. And then he gets asked about it yesterday, Mr. Rubberface. Man, I tell you, it's not good to serve evil. All these globalists look like reanimated corpses. And they all just get off on destruction and power, and their empire's collapsing, sucking America down with it, and they're not going to let it collapse without starting World War III. That's what all this is about. Let me tell you, folks, they hit Syria and Syria hits Israel. Israel is probably going to nuke somebody or attack them, and then Iran's going to attack, and then Russia's going to get involved, folks, and then we're all dead. And we've barely stopped 3 nuclear wars before. And all you idiot yuppies send me emails and I see comments making jokes about this. You people are idiots. I would like to literally punch your eyes out if you said that to my face. I got a family. I got 3 children. Just because you're uninformed and think everything's a joke doesn't mean the rest of us have to go to hell with you. Excuse me. Let's go to Kerry saying, oh yeah, give me an authorization for boots on the ground. Let's play the clip. Here it is.
Would you tell us whether you believe that a prohibition for having American boots on the ground, is that something that the administration would accept as part of a resolution?
Mr. Chairman, it would be preferable not to, not because there's any intention or any plan or any desire whatsoever to have boots on the ground. I think the President will give you every assurance in the world, as am I, as the Secretary of Defense and the Chairman. But in the event Syria imploded, for instance, or
which is your plan,
there was a threat of a chemical weapons cache.
Oh, they're going in,
falling into the hands.
They've always been in there.
Of al-Nusra or someone else.
The groups you put in.
It was clearly in the interests of our allies and all of us, the British, the French, and others, to prevent those weapons of mass destruction falling into the hands of the worst elements.
There you go. That's enough.
I don't want to take off.
Yeah, he doesn't want to take it off the table. So we're going to come back with the clips. Ladies and gentlemen, they create the war. They create the destabilization. They come in with a solution. Give them more power. And they're never going to stop until we stop them. And then I look at that crowd of people. They're all a bunch of weak, pathetic, degenerate scum, not fit to rule an outhouse. Okay? They're not fit to do anything but go to prison. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a quote. Obama says he didn't set a red line on Syria. That's the Weekly Standard with that quote. And then here's the original national security piece put out by the Washington Post. Obama issues Syria a red line warning on chemical weapons from the 21st day of August last year, over a year ago. Now, I know everybody knows that, but it just shows how they practice lying, knowing that you know they're lying, but just to try to break your will. Well, the difference is here, nobody's will's broken now. We know who you are. Remember Ronald Reagan criticizing the Soviet Union for its corruption, speaking out against them, talking about all the things they were involved in, how they were a corrupt elite, and how they collapsed. Now the world is pointing out that we have a bunch of corrupt scum here. That is what has happened, ladies and gentlemen. And everybody is seeing through what's going on. I have another article here where premiums are now set to raise 120+% in the next year on Obamacare. It was 53% so far this year. Now it's going to be 120+% by next year. And you're like, what's that have to do with Syria? Ladies and gentlemen, Obamacare is written to bankrupt the country. Now there it is, report healthcare premiums to increase up to 125% in Wisconsin due to Obamacare. And it's similar numbers across the country. That's being reported by television, local news up there. That's what the government's telling them get ready for. Oh, that's going to help poor people. Oh, raise even poor people's payroll tax. When he promised, I won't raise your payroll tax, not your income tax. In fact, I'm going to cut it. I never said there was a red line. And now he has 7 major scandals going. Benghazi, Fast and Furious, NSA, persecution of the press, going after whistleblowers. The list goes on and on. 7 big scandals. And now they have the nerve, in a whole bunch of news articles and video clips I have today, to have Democratic congresswomen and others saying, only reason I'd vote to strike Syria would be loyalty to Obama. That's the District of Criminals non-voting delegate to Congress, Eleanor Holmes Norton, said. And then Chris Matthews, that 40-plus years in Washington, working for presidents, a scumbag race pimp, just absolute pile of steaming, inhuman trash, anti-American, anti-family, anti-gun. I mean, these are enemies. That isn't rhetoric. These are our enemies. These people are a criminal class. He comes out and says, we need to have this war to save Obama. They're so arrogant in their criminality. That's what criminals do. They always brag. That they're saying this will haul Obama's bacon for their power. They admit it's all a big lie to divert everybody so Obama could start a war that might lead to World War III.
I think the Democrats are going to be forced to sacrifice men and women who really, really don't want to vote for this. And they're going to have to vote for it to save the president's hide. That's a very bad position to put your party.
And some will say, oh, no, he's being honest there. No, he's saying what's going on. He's all for it. And then you've got all the rest of these people saying, I'll do it for loyalty. Hey, why don't you take your kids outside then and blow their brains out? Chris Matthews and the District of Criminals Congresswoman. I mean, I'm not saying literally do that, but you know what? I mean, if Obama said, march your kids outside, put a gun in their mouth, blow their brains all over the wall, would you do it? If Obama said go jump off a cliff, would you do it? And let me tell you, all these Republicans are telling us go jump off a cliff. I can't look at John McCain anymore. I mean, he's obviously completely mentally ill. John Kerry, these are flaming nutcases. And remember, what do you expect, folks? At Skull and Bones, ABC News got video of it that confirms what Charlotte Iserby leaked to Anthony Sutton, the congressional expert, congressional hearings. You know, Shelley revealed that a few years ago to us. And we went to her home and she showed us the Skull and Bones memorabilia. Her father and grandfather were members of Skull and Bones, an elite family. And she leaked to Anthony Sutton what goes on in Skull and Bones that confirmed the break-in from over 100 years ago, what it confirmed. Do you know what goes on at Skull and Bones? Well, I have a family audience, so I can't say it. They have sexual rituals, some of the most ancient Egyptian rituals, where they believe they are possessed by entities, basically space aliens. When you're looking, I don't believe this. Let's be clear. When you look at John Kerry, though, and his tomb mate, George W. Bush, and the rest of them, these are people that had gay sex hundreds of times in coffins, begging for spiritual entities to possess them. And you know what? Put John Kerry on screen. You know what? Put the video from yesterday. That's the really crazy one. I mean, you know what? If that's a case for possession, folks, I believe it. I mean, Hollywood should want to hire him to play the next Silence of the Lambs, because there's no actor that can look this whacked out crazy. I mean, take George W. Bush and all his weirdness. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, these are people that get in coffins hundreds of times and giant pits of feces and have sex with each other. And people go, oh, well, that's just fraternity fun. No, ladies and gentlemen, that's not what it is. And by the way, a lot of people that get tapped for it won't be part of all that. That's the higher level initiates. John Kerry, ladies and gentlemen, is a member of a satanic death cult. And no wonder he wants to start World War III. I mean, what do you call it psychologically? I mean, if you don't believe in these entities like they do, okay, it doesn't exist. Doesn't matter. They believe entities possess them in pits of feces. I mean, we have a Secretary of State who has asked entities to enter his body while having sex in large vats of feces with men peeing on him. They even made a movie, The Good Shepherd, about this, Robert De Niro produced it, and it was hailed as historically accurate with men peeing on each other. I mean, I'm sorry, we have family audiences, but that's what they're doing. And how much more will we put up with these people? It is chapter 322 officially of the Illuminati, ladies and gentlemen. Founded by the Illuminati in 1832, on record. People make fun of me saying, oh, German death cults run the world. No, they're a big part of it, though. Doesn't even mean they're German. It means they've adopted a German death cults activity that's really Egyptian, which was the dark black magic elements of the priesthood in Egypt. These people follow a 4,000-year-old Egyptian death cult, okay? That's who's running things, wallowing in feces. That's what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. A Secretary of State that has had sex in giant vats of feces. And I dare the media to attack me on this because that's exactly who they are. Go ahead, make fun of me because it's all on record. And it's all come out. And go ahead and try to make me look crazy talking about that. I don't care. You're the ones that are crazy following these people. The only video they have of Skull and Bones is in the courtyard screaming, death, devil equals death. Oh, hell, I love you, devil. They have people that dress up in skull masks with crowns on, and then you worship the devil. And then the person playing the part of the devil who believes they've been possessed by the devil sits there and watches while man after man has sex with you. I mean, that's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. You want the truth? Can you handle the truth? That's the big question here, ladies and gentlemen. These people are monsters. And that's what hit me last night was I have been holding back. I know they're monsters. Why does Kerry look so weird? Why does he act so weird? Why do they lie? Why can't they help not lying? Why was Kerry about to collapse over and over again watching the testimony? Go back and review it from yesterday's testimony to the Senate. He's in the House today. He would have to, when they were talking, have to lean his head down and like put his hands on the table and just, because, I mean, folks, imagine he's been possessed by this stuff so long, like Aleister Crowley was. Can you imagine what it's like being under that? Thank God I'm among the living. Thank God I love life. Thank God I've got red blood and gusto and honor and courage and love of life and innocence. Man, it feels good to be on the side of good. I not want to be a part of evil. These servants are evil are jokes. Let me tell you something. I said this to the crew earlier today, and they said, well, you got to say that on air, but it's true. Evil ain't cool and evil ain't fun. And the path of evil lives in the heart of all of those that serve evil. And what was my full quote you said was good? It was a quick quote. You said we ought to make a liner out of it. Evil isn't good for you, bitches. I think that's what I said. I mean, it's just elementary. To use a modern parlance, excuse me, but I mean, that's what's going on here. This is not fun. You don't want to shine on to this. Beelzebub's here to destroy things. And again, even if you don't believe in it, our leaders are part of groups. It came out in mainstream news that Tony Blair every morning is possessed by the spirit of the light and falls down on the ground and flops around on the ground. That's mainstream British news. And his wife is an admitted witch who does rituals with him. And he spends most of his free time flying all around the world doing weird rituals. So did Francois Mitterrand. Look that up. The pyramid at the Louvre, the pink pyramid, the pink and gold pyramid, has 666 pieces of glass. And Mitterrand said the idea was beamed to him by Lucifer when he was on a sacred mountaintop. Well, let me tell you, what Lucifer's beaming to you isn't good, and I don't want to be run by Lucifer. Comprende? I don't want to work for El Diablo or the skinny one, the Grim Reaper, any of it. I choose God. I choose Jesus Christ. I choose life. I don't choose death. Those of you that worship at the dark altar of it. I know I'm preaching. Let me just go over the headlines, then we'll go to more of these clips. Okay? We've got Ted Cruz, U.S. not an al-Qaeda's Air Force. Cue that up. I want to play that in a moment. But before we go back to those clips, let me just give you some of the headlines here, ladies and gentlemen. Washington Times, Kerry holds objectors responsible for any future atrocities in Syria. When they started the whole thing and have been running the whole thing for 2.5 years, they're blaming it now on us. I mean, you got to love that. That's just too rich. Like if somebody ran their car into you running a red light and then got out and blamed you. McCain's playing poker during all this. It's a big joke to him. Just total mental patient. They asked him how many houses he owns. He didn't know. Nothing against owning things, but just, they don't even care. They don't even know. Democrat Congresswoman, only reason I'd vote to strike Syria would be loyalty to Obama. Syrian conflict opposition leader, the real opposition, criticizes plans for U.S. intervention as satanic to destroy the country. Even the real opposition that's genteel and doesn't like Assad for good reasons, just like Syrian girl's family. The real opposition says this is pure evil. Don't do it. That's Huffington Post. Jerusalem Post. Russia suspends delivery of S-300 missile systems to Syria. Putin says if you can show evidence he used chemicals, he will agree to the strike and might even help. But instead, no Western media wants to talk to Vladimir Putin. By the way, Obama isn't trying to talk to the Russians. It's come out in the news, but I've been told by our Russian sources as well, high-level Russian media, high-level, that the Russian government is in bunkers, they're on nuclear alert. That's actually come out, and that they know about the Western elite, and they're actually freaked out, and that no one diplomatically will even talk to them now. You know, the diplomatic phones, all of it's dead, and nuclear weapons are being massed in the Middle East. Let's continue here. Rand Paul demands Obama adhere to Congress on Syria. Absolutely. Article by Paul Watson up on Infowars.com. Also, Ron Paul gets cut off by CNN. We have that video up on Infowars.com. Will Congress reject Obama's attack on Syria? Infowars.com. Very important breakdown there. President Bashir al-Assad's full interview translated into English on Infowars.com. And he says, first off, you've just got to show evidence we did it. We didn't do it. You're setting us up. It's a frame-up. And it just continues. New polls out with the vast majority of Americans, ABC News poll, opposing military strike on Syria. Now, getting into the really important news on Syria. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dempsey, can't say what U.S. is seeking in Syria. And he went on to say he doesn't know why this is going to happen. Because Dempsey said on record it's a bad idea. David Cameron rules out any further military action in Syria. Even if there's new attacks, he's now said they're not going to be part of it. And you know why? Because they're not insane and they love their children. And they understand that Iran and Syria are going to launch missiles at Israel, and then there's probably a 50-50 chance, most estimates are, that Israel's going to start nuking people. And then, folks, the minute nukes detonate, it's over. You understand? It's over. But these power-tripping, demonically possessed globalists who literally bathe in feces want to bathe us in fire while they go down in their bunkers and laugh about it. Because they are psychopaths. They are nutcases who all need to be arrested immediately. But remember, none of this is their fault. It's all our fault, as Kerry said. Andelson, Bloomberg reports, new Obama ally as Jewish groups back Syria strike. The lobbyist and billionaire that gave $70 million to defeat Obama last year in the elections is now getting behind Obama, saying he needs to attack. Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a really, really great idea. And it just goes on and on and on, ladies and gentlemen. And meanwhile, everybody in America is still obsessed with last week with Hannah Montana or whatever idiot name is now, Miley Curtis or whatever, bending over and being humped on. And again, folks, if adults want to watch that stuff, that's their business. This stuff is targeting young girls. The satanic stuff in the videos aimed at preteen youths is absolutely out of control. Just like the sex education that Obama's pushing for 5-year-olds, teaching them how to, well, I can't even say it to an adult audience. I mean, just you name it. They're pedophiles. They're devil worshipers. But we put up with it. Well, they're the federal government, and they say teach 5-year-olds how to have anal sex. And everybody's like, well, yeah, if you don't do that, you're racist. Obama's black. So it's okay. Let the pedophiles teach your kids how to do all this stuff. We'll be right back with the key news on the nukes being transferred. By the way, Dave Mustaine's coming into town this weekend in Austin to play with Iron Maiden. And he's invited me out to hang out with those guys. And who knows, we might have an interview for you next week. Get Dave's take on all this. Dave of Megadeth, obviously. I love his new album, Super Collider. But, you know, it's hard to even enjoy stuff like that when all of this stuff's going on around us in the world that could absolutely destroy all of our futures. I mean, I can't even make myself leave the office now, even though I want to be with my children more than anything, because they don't have a future if we don't stop this. And as soon as I start driving down the road, sometimes I turn around and come back and I think of all the things I need to do, all the things I need to say, all the messages I need to get out, because history's happening. What we're putting out is actually being picked up by all the other big talk show hosts. And more we see it being mirrored, and that is the essence of changing things, is the spirit of truth getting out there, and we're a big part of that. And all the glory goes to God, but it's very, very daunting. When I start the next hour, I'll get into our top story that's up on Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. Exclusive, high-level source confirms secret U.S. nuclear warhead transfer and why this is such a big deal. And I wish this source wasn't so good and wasn't a witness to it and wasn't so confirmed. I mean, I just cannot believe I'm breaking news like this. This is just unbelievable. And it totally freaked out the military people and the police that were there. And if you don't know why, folks, it's because there was no signing for the warheads. These warheads just disappeared off into trucks down the road. And the base commander was there to authorize it. And there weren't even supposed to be nukes at this base. And I know I just got into skull and bones and all that, but I mean, look at the Masonic Lodge in Michigan they just busted with an orgy going on in it. That's nothing, folks. Those are women. Those are guys, you know, consenting adults. I don't agree with it, but that's nothing, folks. Those guys aren't going to get invited to the higher level stuff. Masons didn't do stuff like that in George Washington's day. The Illuminati took over the Masons. The Masons go back to Egypt and to the wizards who were not Satanist. Solomon picked up on that afterwards. So you had the main colleges, which were agrarian and science and math and architecture, but it was also religious. And then you have the secret cults within it, kind of like the Jedi and the Sith, you understand? And so the Masons tend to get blamed for what the Sith are doing, but it's actually that the Sith, to use that analogy, use the Masonic Lodge to recruit out of. And that's what George Washington wrote. You can read his letters against the Illuminati from 1889. He died in 1800. I go from memory. You can pull those up, National Archives, signed by George Washington, scans of them. He battled the Illuminati. This is real, ladies and gentlemen. This is real. And you don't get entry into these clubs unless you're part of it. I want to tell you about Infidel Body Armor. InfidelBodyArmor.com stops hundreds of rounds from AK-47 to M4, 30-06, 30-308, more. Ceramic only stops 6 rounds. This stops hundreds. They have all sizes. Level 3 armor, incredible pricing. Online catalog is amazing. InfidelBodyArmor.com or 888-608-6605. 888-608-6605. InfidelBodyArmor.com. And don't forget InfoWarsStore.com. Buy the books, the T-shirts, the videos, all the material, the Pro Pure water filters. That's what funds our operation. So fund us. Feed us. You know, that's the type of news report we ought to do. I just mentioned at the end of the last hour, you go to the National Archive and read all of George Washington's letters. There's hundreds of them in there, scans of them. But you can read the letters on the Illuminati. I think there's like 5 of them in there, where he's warning people about the Illuminati taking over, trying to take over Masonry, how dangerous they are, how they're Jacobins. The French Revolution was going then, and how they were Satanist. And then you realize that they then had the movement here to kick him out of the U.S. That became the Anti-Masonic Party. And then by 1832, they came over here and set up Skull and Bones. to try to take over Masonry again. And the general public just blamed Masonry out of hand. And again, I'm not defending Masonry. I'm not a Mason. I've had a lot of family that were Masons. I've had family that were 33rd degree Masons. There's a reason Texas is called the Lone Star State. It was a Masonically founded state. And the apple of world Masonry's eye. And they believe predestined to do something special in the future. But the point is that it's all a deception. And it's true that Masonry is pre-Christian. And they like to go back to Solomon and Solomon's Secrets, the most knowledgeable man who ever lived, as the Bible calls him, son of David, to say, oh, that's where we come from. We're Christian. But you go above that. It's all the mystery schools of Babylon, of Greece, but really Egypt is the root. And I'm fair with the Masons because I'm not in a war against the Masons. I would rather have them wake up to the fact that their darker roots have sprung forth into their body and taken over the body. And that, to use their words of a 33rd degree Mason, they are out of balance. Big time. Big time. And of course, the truth is there is no balance to it. You start saying, oh, there's balance. Oh, Lucifer can give us knowledge. Lucifer is, the twin of Christ. You start getting into those areas, ladies and gentlemen, it's very, very destructive. I just stay out of it. And just get my heart right with God. It's that relationship that matters, especially in times like these. Because you get into all this sorcery, and you get into all the things these people are involved in, it will destroy you. You can't wear the ring of Mordor and use it for good. It's best to stay out of all that stuff. But I don't judge people that are part of those ancient orders, and most of them are good. That's how the evil operates, is it gets the best men around it believing they're part of something good so that they can be controlled and watched. And that's what's going on with the Masons. If you just come out and say all the Masons are behind closed doors drinking blood, 99% of Masons, literally, or 99.9, have no idea there's 360 degrees. They have no idea that humans go up into the high hundreds. And that then it's princes and principalities and deities, angels, that sit on the other points. And that Skull and Bones, they worship Eulogia, the goddess. But that's only the white mask they wear. The dark mask, they worship Shaitan, Satan, the devil, Beelzebub. And that's been leaked, that's come out. That doesn't mean everybody who's even been part of that, when they do the rituals of possession, actually are given over to the entities. You want heavy Illuminati, folks? I can give it all to you. I know pretty much all of it. All right, we're going to come back, ladies and gentlemen, on the other side of this break, getting heavy here as we talk about World War III. And we'll get into our top story today when we return on the other side of this quick break. Infowars.com, prisonplanet.tv.
The world.
All right, my friends, I want to open the phones up right now in this second hour to get your take on all the bombshell information we just covered. You've got Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, coming out and saying U.S., not al-Qaeda's Air Force. That's in Politico, up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Putin does not rule out approving Syria strike with evidence Assad used poison gas. He says the evidence points towards the rebels, but if you can show the evidence, I will support a strike. And diplomatically, no one will talk to him, even though there's a big international meeting about to start over in Russia that's hosted by Putin. So the West literally pushing towards World War III. You have the neocons pushing Obama. Kerry says that he holds objectors responsible for any future atrocities in Syria. So see, just like Sandy Hook, any kids are ever shot, it's your fault. Doesn't matter. Gun deaths are down by 61%, gun violence down by 51%, Other crimes involving firearms down by 49%. Justice Department's own numbers. Doesn't matter. It's your fault people are being shot. And it's your fault somebody gassed some people over there, and Kerry's saying it's 1,400, it's now 400, and all the evidence points towards the rebels. It's your fault. Didn't you hear? Didn't you get the memo? Didn't you get the news? Weren't you told? You do what they say or you're guilty. So you get behind this war. And then meanwhile, we have Democratic congresswomen and others coming out saying they're going to vote for the war out of loyalty to Obama. And we've got Chris Matthews saying Dems should vote for war to save Obama. And here is that clip with Chris Matthews.
I think the Democrats are going to be forced to sacrifice men and women who really, really don't want to vote for this. And they're going to have to vote for it to save the president's hide. That's a very bad position to put your party.
Okay, now we're going to cue up Ted Cruz here, saying U.S. not al-Qaeda's Air Force, because 60+% of the forces, out of 9 groups fighting, 7 of the groups are al-Qaeda affiliated or actual al-Qaeda. Folks, not just in Syria, but in Libya and in Egypt, we've shown these videos on InfoWars. We've done news reports on it. Most of the time, because that's the coolest group to be part of, according to them, they have al-Qaeda flags, the black flag that says the group of al-Qaeda, the al-Qaeda flag, and sometimes they say the bin Laden Brigade. They put the name Osama bin Laden in Arabic, and then they sing his name into battle. We got video of tanks flying al-Qaeda flags in Syria. CNN calls them protesters. Imagine if you attacked a building with a tank, they'd call you a protester. No, they call you a terrorist. It's all out there. It's totally insane. So here's Ted Cruz calling it like it is. All we have to do is rediscover reality, say what it is. Yeah, it was crazy 2.5 years ago for us to say our government was running al-Qaeda. Now we forced it out in the mainstream. Now it's safe for other people. We're going to get to Rush Limbaugh after this, but here is Chris Matthews. Ted Cruz, we just played Chris Matthews. Ted Cruz, U.S. not al-Qaeda's Air Force. Here it is.
Look, we certainly don't have a dog in the fight.
Right.
Civil war between Sunnis and Shiite in the Middle East.
Which has been going on for centuries. It's nothing new.
Right. Well, we're not going to resolve the tensions over there, and the last thing we ought to be doing is sending our sons and daughters into harm's way to get in the middle of this sectarian civil war. We should be focused on defending the United States of America. That's why young men and women sign up to join the military, not to as you note, serve as al-Qaeda's Air Force.
Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. So there is that clip. Now I'm going to cover some news, and then we're going to go back into some of the clips. I haven't played Rush Limbaugh yet. In fact, maybe we should play that right now. The full 15-minute clip is up on Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com. This got picked up by a lot of media yesterday after our own Julie Wilson wrote about it. I appreciate listeners sending us the YouTube clip that had just been uploaded at the end of the show yesterday, breaking this down. But good for Rush Limbaugh when shown overwhelming evidence that this is a false flag, to point out it did come out a week before in the news. There's about to be game-changing events in Syria for the U.S. intervention. And then the evidence, there's video of it, of the al-Qaeda forces loading the chemical weapons mortars on the mortar platforms to fire them. Here's Rush Limbaugh yesterday.
There's a growing volume of new evidence from numerous sources in the Middle East, mostly affiliated with the Syrian opposition and its sponsors and supporters, which makes a very strong case based on solid circumstantial evidence that the August 21st, 2013 chemical strike in the Damascus suburbs was indeed a premeditated provocation. It looks like there was U.S. intel involvement dating a week before the alleged chemical weapons attack in meetings that were anticipating a war-changing event. So we could be looking here at a frame job. Available data puts the horror in a different and disturbing light, meaning it's not Basher doing the horrible things. It's the rebels nerve-gassing themselves, framing Bashar, setting him up so that the al-Qaeda guys win, and then we end up on the side of al-Qaeda. And you've heard that being speculated about. If indeed this is a frame job, look at how well it's being run. I'm not attaching any weight in this to what they have said. It just, to me, it's coincidental. On Saturday, I got these two notes from friends of mine who've done business in the Middle East, in Syria. Just do not think that they know Assad. They cannot believe that he would do this.
Well, plus when he's going to be invaded and thrown out of power. They've been fighting for 2.5+ years, winning, and then the West is openly framing him. And I don't agree with Limbaugh here on one point, that Obama's doing a great job. This is falling flat on its face. You got Ron Paul, Rand Paul, Pat Buchanan, and all these other people saying it looks like a false flag staged event. You've got the rebels so shoddy when it comes to their work that they want to upload hero videos of themselves showing they did it, as the al-Qaeda jihadi clowns always do. And it's just all collapsing. But the problem is they may do something big to get them out of this crisis. I want to hear from listeners. I want to hear from police. I want to hear from military. I want to hear from everybody about what you think about this situation now. And by the way, in Senate testimony, former Senator John Kerry said, we want authorization for boots on the ground because Syria may implode. They've been trying to implode it, to divide it in at least 2 parts, probably 3. That's Brzezinski's plan. That has always been the plan by these pieces of trash. And they know that Syria, when back to the wall, will fire missiles at Israel. They've said we'll never use our legal, lawful chemical weapons unless Israel, that's pushing for this, attacks us through proxies, through the U.S. and others. Then we may attack you. And folks, Israel, when that happens, is going to, they've said they're going to start nuking people. Now, again, I know most Israelis I talk to on the phone who call in, and people I know, they're Jewish here in Austin, Texas, think this is all madness. When we say Israel's doing this, or we say America's doing this, or NATO's doing this, the out-of-control kleptocrats that are running things are doing this. Now, the leaders of the Knesset and even Netanyahu's people came out a few days ago and said, look, we can handle Syria if something goes on. We'll back your strike if you do it, but you don't have to do a strike. So I think Israel's even getting cold feet in this, because the Iranians, folks, have got medium-range missiles, and there's a good chance that they're going to fire them at Israel. And I know a lot of good old boys go, good, let's attack another country. I don't like them Arabs or them Persians. Our government overthrew with the British in '53 a secular pro-America leader to put bad people in charge. There was an attack, what was it, in 1989, another in 90, blowing up a bunch of battleships and stuff that look up Operation Praying Mantis. I think that's the name. I'm going from memory. Look up U.S. strike on Iran, U.S. naval strike on Iran, biggest U.S. naval engagement since World War II is one of the headlines. You can see the gun pod video of blowing up the battleships and missile cruisers. They didn't want Iran having a navy. They just blew up their navy. And Iran put up with that. I mean, Iran, and I'm not romanticizing them, and I don't want to live in Iran, and I don't want to live under the mullahs, and I'm a Christian. The point is, they're not here running my life. They're not putting face scanning cameras up. They're not trying to teach 5-year-olds in public school how to have anal sex. I'm sorry to say that, but it's even worse than that, as Obama has openly pushed. They don't have Jocelyn elders over here trying to teach 3-year-olds how to masturbate. And I'm sorry to talk like that. These are all a bunch of sick freaks, folks. These are scumbags, okay? They are demonic, pervert nutcases who are mentally ill and who like to do crazy things. I mean, that's what mentally ill people do. So I want to get your take. 800-259-9231. 800-259-9231. Yeah, there's the headline. Did I say first grade? I'm sorry, it's worse. Obama is mandating, there's the CBS headline, they're mandating the Department of Education sexual training for kindergartners. Did I say first graders? I'm sorry, it's worse. I just can't even handle this anymore. Keep your dirty, stinking mitts, MSNBC, off the little kids, you pervs. They're the ones that say your kids belong to them. How about my fist belongs upside your head if you try to touch kids. How's that sound? How about you freaks with all your perverted cartoons and your stuff? How about we stop watching you and listening to you? How about everybody shuns you? How everybody mentally has a break with you and prays for God to judge you? How about God judges you instead of us? How about we all say a prayer for judgment to be brought down on your heads?
For over
Desperate land right now with the globalists wanting to flex their muscles worldwide. They want world government. They want global domination. They want it right now. We are back live, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. Your phone calls are coming up in the next segment. I was correct from memory. It was Operation Praying Mantis. It was an attack April 18th, 1988 by U.S. naval forces within Iranian territorial waters in retaliation for the Iranian mining of the Persian Gulf during the Iran-Iraq war and the subsequent damage to an American ship. Yeah, how dare Iran try to repulse the U.S.-funded Iraqi 7-year war that killed over 1.5 million Iranians. Another thing, how dare those Iranians not like their government overthrown? Then the Ayatollahs put in by the CIA, then double-cross them, then fund Saddam to attack them for 7 years, kill 1.5 million of them. Then they tried to fight back, and the U.S. blew up all their ships. Yeah! Yeah! Get tough, Iran! Take some more, Iran! You're bad. The TV told me so. You deserve to be nuked. We need World War III. Let's have it with Russia, too. They deserve it. And it goes on and on and on. If Iran was trying to make me buy government health care and double premiums so the government could cut off the type of health care I'd get, I'd hate them. If Iran was trying to take my guns, I would hate them. If Iran was trying to send our sons and daughters off for lying wars to die for globalists, I'd hate them. If they were trying to make me take deadly vaccines on record to dumb me down, I would hate them. If they were putting fluoride in my water on record, Harvard studies, to brain damage me, I would hate them. If Syria was doing any of that, I'd hate them. I'd call for war with them because they did something to me. Let me tell you who's done something to me is the New World Order. Let me tell you who's done something to you. It's the New World Order. They have sucked us dry to build this world government and to commit crimes all over the planet in our names. And every time some country, whether it's Brazil or whether it's Iran or whether it's an African country, tries to build an infrastructure and tries to have a better life, the New World Order goes in there with our troops and our name and our young people that join the CIA and other groups to sabotage those countries because nobody's allowed to have nothing but the New World Order. And now the New World Order is shutting off our power plants. Now they're shutting off our infrastructure. Now they're bankrupting our dollar. They're going to do to us what they've done to everybody else, ladies and gentlemen. They are the plague. They are the enemy. They are the scourge. And I've had enough of it. And that's why everybody's turning against the New World Order now, because they get it's all lies, it's all death, its fruits are poison. You make a deal with these guys, you get absolutely hammered. People are tired of being screwed over, and they know both parties are working for the same globalists now. I mean, hallelujah that Ted Cruz is coming out and Rand Paul and Ron Paul. And I told you, even though Ron Paul lost the two elections, the idea of liberty and common sense and fighting false flag and the government shipping in the drugs and all that is now commonplace. And people have a choice now. They know the New World Order is doing it. They know it's the author of our problems because there's opposition. Resistance is victory. And we've been here with opposition, criticizing their programs, criticizing their lies, criticizing their frauds, criticizing the things they're doing, pointing out their lies. We're there and we're shutting them down. The Pentagon admits that. Brzezinski admits it. Hillary admits it. We are now on top of the New World Order, smashing its teeth in, ramming its nose off its face, ripping its ears off, gouging its eyeballs in. You understand that? But the problem is they're going to launch something even bigger. But I'm telling you, if this was Hitler, he's in the bunker. I'm telling you, we just got to push this all the way and know when they nuke a city or something, it's them. In fact, even if there's nuclear war after it all happens, remember, the New World Order did it. Go dig them out of their bases. Bring them to justice, whoever's left. Never forget you heard this transmission. We're going to come back, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to get into the big top story I haven't covered yet, and then your calls. Gentlemen, we are back live. Your phone calls are coming up. And then I'm going to play the first ever speech of Vladimir Putin in English. He's now addressing the world. Matt Drudge is calling him the leader of the free world on his Twitter. They're at Drudge. You can follow us at Real Alex Jones. Just simply amazing. But our top story that I mentioned in the first hour that's red-linked up on Infowars.com is exclusive. High-level source confirms secret U.S. nuclear warhead transfer by Anthony Gucciardi and Alex Jones. So the tip came into me, and Anthony and I wrote this story together yesterday. This source came directly into us. The source has been known by us for a decade or so. A high-level source inside the military has now confirmed to us that Dyess Air Force Base in Texas is actively moving nuclear warheads to the east coast of the United States in a secret transfer that has no paper trail. According to the high-level military source, who has a strong record of continually being proven correct in deep military activity, the Dyess Air Force commander authorized, this person was there, folks, unknown parties to transfer the nuclear warheads to an unknown location inside South Carolina, where the warheads will then be picked up and potentially utilized. This is of particular interest not only due to the fact that the Syrian situation has escalated to the point of very realistic hot war scenario, as USA Today reported, but due to the fact that Dyess has repeatedly denied the existence of nuclear warheads inside the base. We should probably add since the 1980s when they were removed under treaty. And everything we were given was confirmed because Weldon Henson was in the Air Force and worked on the B-1s and F-16s, and he was there for years at the base. But again, you can go to Infowars.com and see this story red-linked there on the site so you can read it for yourself, and that the weapons were reportedly moved in the 80s under treaty. They're not allowed to be at that base. And that he'd seen Russian inspectors there before looking in the B-1 bombers, the B-1Bs, to make sure they had the braces put in them so they couldn't carry the large hydrogen bombs. And I went and talked to Weldon Henson again, who's worked in my office for 6 years, and he confirmed a lot of what we were told by our source. The brief report from the top-level military source, which was written in a rush to get the information out, reads, Dyess is beginning to move out nuclear warheads today. I got a tap from Dermo earlier. He said it was the first time they had been ever acknowledged since being put there in the 80s. No signature was required for transfer. There was no directive. He said that the Dyess commander was on site to give authority for release. No one knew where they were really going, but the truck driver said that they were to be taken to South Carolina, and another pickup would then take them from there, was the quote. I'm reading what was sent to us, and then we made a call about it. The fact that the transfer was not signed for and there were no papers is key. It shows how the military is now secretly operating with the transfer of nuclear weapons. And what's more, we know that Dermo, a military base in Florida, is a hotbed of special operations. Why is Dermo operating the nuclear warheads out of Dyess Air Force Base with no paper trail? This shows this is a highly secretive Black Ops style move, and that the military does not want it on record. And then he goes through some of the examples of what's at the base, the B-1B bombers. All of this is absolutely incredible. Now, again, this could just be moving them somewhere to be put on aircraft that are then going to be flown to the Middle East. But the issue with that is then they're signed for, it's on record, they're loaded generally on the aircraft that are going to be flying to the Middle East or on a transport aircraft to move them to the Middle East. You don't just have them not signed for. That's why base security and others were really upset. But the base commander was there to say this is authorized, and everybody had their mouths hanging open as these nukes drove off the base to South Carolina. I mean, who even knows if that's true, ladies and gentlemen? And I wish that this report was not from an accurate source. And again, you can go to Infowars.com where we have the article posted, and please send this on to your friends and family, and you can scroll through and see shots from satellite of the nuke bunkers they had from back in the 80s. You can scroll through and see the B-1 bombers, all of it that left over a week ago and haven't come back. And also the B-2 bombers out of Missouri left and haven't come back. And then, of course, we have an image of a Fukushima survivor, not Fukushima, excuse me, a Hiroshima survivor from 1945, of what I guess survivors have to look forward to who aren't killed by the initial blast. That was atomic weapons. Of course, now they're hydrogen and beyond. But look, he's enjoying his food there. You know, I actually admire people that have had their entire faces burned off, like that Japanese man who was a boy at the time, who can still enjoy life and smile through it all, and you know, has a beautiful heart, even though all his skin was burned off being in the Hiroshima blast. There's quite a few Japanese that walk around looking just like that. Absolutely insane. So the story goes on to break down the different facets of it. Remember in 2007, cruise missiles came up missing from Minot, North Dakota, and they were being shipped down to Louisiana, and there was a big freak out in the military, and a bunch of people died at the Dakota base who were witnesses. They died of suicide, car wrecks in the week after, and then they had to admit, okay, the nukes were accidentally shipped and the paperwork wasn't signed. So, see, people at these bases know you're not just to have nukes just go on an airplane and there's no record of it, or they're just to be sent by airplanes down to another state with no paperwork. They know to blow the whistle. And so I hope people don't start dying over this. Hope I don't, you know, get pulled over tonight and get shot in the head by a police officer or struck by a bolt of lightning. Yeah, there it is from Wikipedia, the United States Air Force nuclear weapons incident. And again, I don't ever believe Wikipedia, but it has a big bibliography at the bottom. You can scroll down. It's a Strategic Air Command, one of the main bases in the U.S. B-52 bombers are there as well. Air Force Global Strike Command. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you can read about the Minot base and the cruise missiles that were loaded, the stealth cruise missiles that were loaded on the aircraft to be shipped down. And then go to the bottom, it has the bibliography right there for everybody. The response by the government to the incident, the hearings, the commissions, what went on. But don't worry, all those that helped load them, they all died real fast. So we'll never find out exactly what happened. Yeah, and there's the mainstream news articles. That's a Daily Mail article mirrored at Infowars.com. Go back and you can show some of the other bibliographed areas. Thank you, crew. And again, if you hear me talking about all this and you're a radio listener, go to Infowars.com while you listen /show. We have the free video feed, and the free podcast, the free iPhone and Droid apps, and the free newsletter, all of that. By the way, we're going to send out today the September issue of the new magazine that gets into political correctness and how it's the ultimate tyranny, chock full of examples. Great way to deprogram politically correct people. You can buy it at cost in groups of 10 up to 100 at cost, or get a year subscription, and the shipping's included in the cost to ship it out. And it's not bad to make money. We need to make money to fund our operation, but this is purely a tool to wake people up. We've got an activist pack with business cards with InfoWars and the websites at cost. We can sell to you with bumper stickers and magazines and pins. Like, you know, tell your friends and family, hey, boss, or hey, employee, or hey, neighbor, or hey, pastor, here's a pin. Check out Infowars.com. Or, hey, here's a big color glossy magazine with all these graphics and everything. Learn about political correctness, or tell me what you think about this. Believe me, everybody's going out of print. We go into print. Our answer to the internet kill switch. These are like books that you can buy for $1 a piece or less. Big color magazine, 60 pages to give people. It's tailor-made like a super citizen's rule book. InfoWarsStore.com or call 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139. This is life-changing info. The globalists have done everything they can to try to suppress this. And everybody needs to become a Prisonplanet.tv member to see the higher def daytime show, to see the nightly show, all the films, expanded extras. The site really works great. We've really upgraded it. There's 18 years of material. It's been around for almost 11 years. One membership for $5.95. 11 people can log in with the same membership simultaneously to watch the nightly news, 7 o'clock every night, you name it. So if you have a membership, be sure and share it. If you've not become a PrisonPlanet.tv member, become one today. If you have procrastinated, if you've procrastinated and not become a PrisonPlanet.tv member, you are insane. YouTube and all of them are always censoring us. We still put our stuff out there. So you kind of pay it forward. You fund us to run the operation. Then we allow all our stuff to be shared openly everywhere. Sure, you can get all my stuff for free, not in higher def in many cases, but it doesn't matter. Fund us in the info war. It's an absolute imperative. You are insane if you don't get a subscription to InfoWars magazine. You're crazy if you don't read it and then give it to friends and family or leave it at the dental office or whatever. I'm going to your calls. The point is that we need you to buy the Pro Pure water filters, the best unit out there, side-by-side comparisons, InfoWarsShop.com, and get the Pro 1 systems with it that cut out the fluoride, the glyphosates. It's got the lowest price. It's the best system, and then it funds us. Win, 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 win. That's why we've got such good luck, folks, is because we are good. We love God. We have providence. And we only try to do moral good things. And that's why we have the best products at the best prices at InfoWarsStore.com, because we believe in everybody winning. So please go there, buy a bunch of the great products. You need it all to wake people up and for your own health. InfoWarsHealth.com. Just support InfoWars. We need the funds to go to the next level. I'm spending old capital, the emergency backup funds, to go to the next level. And I don't care because I can feel in my guts it's all coming to a head. But we need your support now more than ever. With all this incredible news going on, who else is going to have the guts to put this out? I'm not bragging, hey, we got guts. I'm a maniac, folks. I absolutely am like an attack dog. I'm like a trained German shepherd that's trained if somebody breaks in the house to attack them. I mean, I literally am born to go after these people. I absolutely enjoy the fact that they could come after me. I'm not worried about it. Whatever happens, it's in God's hands. I don't pray to God to protect me. I pray to God that his will be done. Now, in times of weakness, I do pray that my children be protected, but that's weak. I need to just put it all in God's hands and have faith, and I do. I'm 100% in, all in. God give me strength to be good. God give me strength to be articulate, but I'm in. I need you to be in with me. I need you to stand right beside me, committed. And that means spreading the word about the broadcast. That means buying the products, folks, because we're not funded by taxpayer money like MSNBC and the rest of the state-run media. We are 110% going in. And we couldn't have done what we've done, I realize, without all of you spreading the word. Thank God for you. Without folks like Drudge Report helping us, George Norrie helping us, all the people there that wanted justice and knew we were telling the truth, who really helped magnify what InfoWars has done. All of you, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your support. And we'll give it right back to you because we're all in this together. That's what kinship is all about. It isn't about race. It isn't even about religion in the final equation. It's about humanity standing for justice. And people that want justice and truth, who value that above everything else, and who don't like liars and scum, and don't like bullies and con artists, we stand together. And it's time for us to get aggressive, and we're doing it. And you're seeing it happen. But now is the maximum danger. So I'd pray to God, if I was you out there, to open other people's eyes and to have providence move to save this country and the world from this great darkness and to give us a reprieve, time to wake up others. And all these fake devil churches, they say, oh no, don't even pray about what's happening. Don't worry about abortion. Don't worry about the war. Don't worry about all the corruption. God's going to handle it. It's the end of the world. You're going to be raptured. Even if all that was true, which I don't believe it is. What a cop-out. The whole Bible is about who will stand up for me against the wicked ones. Who will stand against the tyrants? All the prophets, Christ, our Lord and Savior, stood against the tyrants, went against the tyrants, didn't follow the orders of the king, didn't follow the orders of Herod, didn't follow the orders of the money changers. And then they tell you just go along with it. Ladies and gentlemen, God's going to say, I didn't know you. I mean, I'm worried about you so-called Christians out there that think you're just going to go make money all day and party and, all week long. And I'm not judging you, by the way. I'm judging your inaction. That's what God really looks at, I'll tell you right now. And then you just go to church and feel like you're good people, okay? You're not good. Okay, if you're not warning people about vaccines, if you're not warning people about fluoride, and maybe you're saying, well, I don't know if that's true. Well, get up off your butt and go find out it's true. It's all there. And then warn people. Warn people. Go protest in an abortion clinic. I'm going to tell you right now, you do not have the spirit of the living God in you if you are not burning a flame in the mind, a flame in the heart, if you aren't on fire to resist tyrants, let me tell you something, folks. You don't have it. I'm going to tell you. I'm warning you here, okay? And you know it's true, okay? You know who you're really with. You know who you really serve. You know you're going to be destroyed, okay? You know that. I'd get your heart right with God right now. I'm going to tell you right now. There are no atheists in foxholes. You're all in a foxhole. You're being attacked by the fluoride. You're being attacked by the GMO. You're being attacked by the propaganda. Your kids, they're trying to corrupt them so they never develop spiritually. They want to ruin them with just Satanism and devilry and sex all over everywhere. Not because I'm a square and can't handle it. Oh, you just can't handle it. No, I know, folks. And the point is, they want to just marinate your children in the world so that they never develop. They want to stunt their development so that they never develop because they want weak, damaged people. You're going to let them abuse your children. You're going to let the world have its way. And look, I'm not judging you. I'm worldly. I fly out of control. I'm a man. I say mean things on air. And it's because I am in the, not the equivalent, I am in a fight, ladies and gentlemen. What you see here on air is somebody frustrated, seeing the enemy, committing all these crimes, seeing all the evil taking place, and I'm like a bull in a slaughterhouse pen, watching other bulls and cows have their throats slit. And I am just, and if I could wake up the other cattle here, we could get out of this. And I am ramming up against the cage bars, ladies and gentlemen. I am doing everything I can. I got slobber coming out my mouth, snot coming out my nose. My eyes are just bloodshot. I'm talking about spiritually here. I am just watching these devils operate. They're uncloaked, folks. I've got the glasses on. I see them. Formaldehyde face. And I am sick of them. And I know how weak they are. And how we just spiritually give them power over us. And they're these crawling, degenerate, stinking. John Kerry, all these globalists, they have the smell of rotting dead children about them spiritually. I can smell them spiritually. Okay, you understand? I can't look at them. They are giant dead animals. You understand that? They are the scum of the universe. They will go to hell. By the way, if you're a TV viewer, you can see the unclassified headquarters, U.S. Army Integrity Service Excellence document that I have right here. Major General Doug Rayberg, investigating officer from the, it was secret, they declassified it a few years ago, of the missing nuclear weapons, where they, by the way, they killed everybody who was witnesses. It was a dirty operation. We believe for a false flag. And now nukes have gone missing again. So, according to our source. And I wonder if anybody's going to do anything about it. Advanced cruise missile, air-launched cruise missiles missing. And now it's reported warheads missing that weren't even supposed to be at the Dyess Air Force Base. I said I'd go to your calls. We got a guest coming up in 30 minutes, but I'm going to go to your calls the next 30 minutes. I've got a bunch of clips I haven't gotten to yet. I almost start hyperventilating on air now. I mean, and the problem is I can't get the general public to get upset like they should be. I mean, there should be 50 million people on the streets right now protesting this World War III thing. Everyone should be freaking out. But the Republican and Democratic parties are run by a bunch of crazy bankers and globalists who think they're above the law. But the British government says, we don't care how many attacks there are, we're not going to attack now. Because the Syrians and the Iranians are going to hit Israel, and then Israel's going to hit them, and then there's a good chance nuclear war is going to break out. Folks, do you really want to die? Also, a bunch of globalists can play world domination. Leave Syria alone. They didn't do anything except get invaded by al-Qaeda on our dime. We should be apologizing to them. And I'm not romanticizing Assad, but they didn't start the fight, and it's wrong. Excuse me. Said I'd go to your calls. I just get so upset. So upset. There's missing nuclear weapons. I'm sick of it. Bunch of crazy people. I mean, you take one look at Obama and all those narcissists. You take one look at those shallow scum at that committee hearing. They are a bunch of people on power trips, and they need to be stopped. They are a menace. They are a menace. A menace. And the good news is you've got all these prominent people coming out saying it's a false flag and saying we're working with al-Qaeda and saying it's to save Obama's bacon. And the Democrats are even admitting that and saying, well, we better save his bacon. Save his bacon? How about save our bacon? What is your problem out there, people? You've lived so long under freedom, you don't appreciate anything. I'm talking to people that support the New World Order. You're morons. The New World Order is the biggest fraud to ever hit this planet. The New World Order is look at everything they do. They're a bunch of bad people. Anything they do is bad. They're rounding up homeschoolers that have fled here because homeschooling's illegal in a bunch of European countries, mainly Germany's, is the main case. And when the people come here, I mean, we're talking scientists, doctors, people come here with the proper visas, Homeland Security grabs them and ships them back to Germany where the parents are put in prison for homeschooling and the children are taken and then drugged by the state to where they're not mentally ill anymore. Last week's warrant in Germany when they SWAT teamed teenage homeschoolers, with these incredibly prominent, well-to-do scientist parents and everybody. It's always like, the most intelligent want to homeschool their kids. They SWAT team them, a homeschooling group, and then the judge put in the warrant, and if the kids give you any trouble, use lethal force, they're cult members. They believe their parents are their guardian. You can read the German translation in the newspapers. I mean, and our sick, filthy government thinks the kids belong to them and agrees with Germany, and it's Hitler-era law on the state running the kids. We've got breaking news. Russia says Syria chemical weapons made by rebels. This story just went live on Infowars.com by Anthony Gucciardi. This is absolutely amazing, but I said I'll go to your phone calls. You've been holding for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, some of you. Since I opened the phones up, we're going to go to you right now. Then we've got Syria, conservative icons put anti-war left to shame. We've got Justin Amash up there. He's a good congressman, but I don't think he's a conservative icon. We ought to put Ted Cruz up there by Matt Drudge because he's the one really putting it to shame, but no big deal. I'm cheap cook, bottle washer, editor, you name it, all in one on air here. Let's go to James in Arizona. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, I just wanted to give you a couple of reports from the military side of the house. Basically, the National Guard and the Marines, at least the ones I communicate with, they're all pretty much understanding that there's severe treason taking place, but they're afraid to say anything. But I also have a lot of veteran friends who got out who are like trying to talk some sense into them. So on one hand, the military is awake. On the other hand, they're very scared to do anything or say anything. And so therefore, it's up to the veterans, the friends that have gotten out, to push. That was my first point. Second point was that typically you have a what's it called, a money bomb every year, and I was kind of hoping this year you would get another big one going. I know,
I'm so busy, I don't have time to plan one, and I need the money. But it doesn't matter. I mean, I can sell, if I ever need to, I'll just sell my house. I've improved it some. I'm not even worried about it. I'm going 110%. I'm going to finish this TV setup, get that going. But the problem is I don't have enough crew, enough money to ever get everything finished because I'm so busy working on everything else I'm doing. I'm not a businessman. I'm just somebody trying to fight the New World Order, but I'm getting better.
Well, you were burned out last year with the Ron Paul and all this, trying to get him elected. And it's this year, it's like all the info warriors need to get on board and invest this year because we need to get your operation growing. That's my second point. My third point is on a false flag. I fear that they're going to do a Mumbai in this country because they want to ban guns, so they're going to do a mass al-Qaeda shooting, Mumbai-style attack, and that was my third point. So the military's awake, Alex. We got them awake except for a few. It's just they're afraid to do anything, so I'm calling on the vet to take action and get your military active duty friends on the same side as you because they're just scared.
Absolutely, and there's one thing that stopped them doing a Mumbai as the CIA got caught in mainstream news staging that, as we said they did. It came out a few years later in the Indian papers, then the Western papers, and the U.S. papers that they did stage that attack on record. But expanding on that, they'll do it in some place like New York or Chicago or a gun-free zone. But we need people that are nearby that are still having the Second Amendment to basically, like death commandos, go take out the terrorist whenever they're in a shopping mall or wherever killing people, because they're going to order the cops to stand down so the terrorists who've been wound up, they might even know they've been set up to be able to kill as many people as possible. The minute it starts, we need gun owners, wherever the shooting's happening, to just go in. I pledge to do this. If there's a mass shooting down the street, I'm not waiting for the cops. Just like, you know, I had family right here in Texas when the tower shooting happened. Mike Hansen's dad was involved in, you know, trying to stop that when it happened. I've had the Austin cop on who went up with the citizen and shot the shooter on the top of it. The minute there's a mass shooting, it's time for men. It's not scary. Just be a man, decide you're going to charge in and go in and kill these people. Anybody starts a mass shooting, citizens need to go in and they need to kill them. Bottom line, there's a mass shooting around me, I'm coming to kill whoever's doing it. If cops probably shoot me in the back trying to stop it, they'll sit around for 5 hours outside and, you know, have a hot dog roasting contest or something. But the police don't need to wait either. They'll be told to stand down. Police, you just go in and you kill them. Anybody starts a mass shooting, kill them. That's what you do. You kill them. You charge in and you kill them.
For a long time.
Not just the whole world, but many prominent people in the United States, mainly libertarians, true conservatives like Pat Buchanan, Matt Drudge, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, myself, Alex Jones, you're listening to. Rush Limbaugh is coming out saying it looks like it may be a false flag. That's because it is a false flag. And, you know, I've told people to do articles on this, and they have. But the media, the mainstream media, the kleptocratic Decepticon media, the parrot media that covers up everything for Vomit and the rest of his followers and the globalist. Earlier this year, the rebels got caught with a chemical weapon attack. A few dozen people got killed. And the Russians tested it and said, that's NATO derivative chemicals. That's not Russian stuff that Assad has. And then the UN tested it and had to admit that was true. The Turkish military caught al-Qaeda rebels trying to sneak chemical weapons across the border and stopped them. People say, well, why, if Turkey's for the rebels, did they do that? Because the average military unit that catches al-Qaeda people with chemical weapons is going to arrest them, ladies and gentlemen. You don't just let people run around with that stuff. See, that's the thing about compartmentalization. The average boots on the ground, I don't care if it's Turkey, Syria, Israel, our troops in Iraq, whatever the case is, they're good men and women. They're compartmentalized. But the establishment is just a bunch of globalist crooks trying to start new wars because they make money off of it. They're above the countries. They make money out of all our misery. They get to take more of our liberties out of these wars. But now you've got Ted Cruz coming out saying we don't need to supply our Air Force to be the Air Force for al-Qaeda. We played that clip last hour. This is big stuff. We're going to go to your phone calls right now, Mitch and Doris and Patrick and Jason. But first, let me just briefly mention this breaking article that's now on prisonplanet.com and infowars.com. And I'm going to tweet it out during the next break at Real Alex Jones so that everybody can then retweet it. Breaking, Russia says Syrian chemical weapons made by rebels. Further adding to the analysis of prominent individuals like Ron Paul, Pat Buchanan, and others who have agreed with our analysis, a new report from Russia lends evidence that the chemical attack in Syria was in fact carried out by the Obama-backed Syrian rebels in order to initiate military action in the nation. In a new breaking report released by the Russian Foreign Ministry just moments ago, it has now been announced that the chemical weapons responsible for the attack in Syria and blamed on Assad's government and army are linked up to the rebel-made weaponry. Specifically, the findings state that the chemical weapon shells are very much different from the standard Syrian army weaponry and extremely similar to those made by the U.S.-funded rebels who have been caught time and time again burning villages full of innocents. And yeah, all they do is just target areas of the city in Damascus that they don't control right on the edge and nerve gas their enemies, then run around grandstanding. And our media buys right into it because they're a bunch of sick freaks. From the Russian report, Probes from Khan al-Assal show chemicals used in the March 19th attack did not belong to standard Syrian army ammunition. And that's the one from earlier this year when it came out. And that the shells carrying the substance was similar to those made by rebel fighting group, the Russian foreign minister said. So again, that's the earlier report from the year I was just mentioning. And it happened last year as well. So that is basically what's going on. New reports and old reports. This has happened over and over and over again. All right, let's go to your phone calls. Mitch in Pennsylvania, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hi, Alex. I got one question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
I need to know, I was wondering what you think about, like, why is it that these elites always choose September as the time for their false flag attacks? I know that they keep astrologists and things like that on their payroll. Why is it that they do that?
They are a bunch of mentally ill freaks who follow a bunch of different bizarre quackery and witchy poo stuff. I don't know. I mean, there's so many different schools of thought. The globalists follow so many different weird mystery school things. But generally you want to start wars from the old days in the spring, because then you could fight through the spring, summer, and fall. You don't fight in the winter, because troops can freeze to death and a lot of other stuff happens. You basically go to your armored fortresses, your keeps, during those type of periods. But historically, a lot of wars do get launched in the autumn. Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa in the late summer, fall, and then, of course, the winter came and the winter rains in Russia that took out Napoleon. Same thing happened there. But I don't know. I mean, I really can't answer that question for you because there's so many different things these people follow. But it's also a political diversion, as Democrats are all admitting. I mean, they're so sick and so divorced from reality that they don't even care if we know. They're like, yeah, we're going to have a war because it'll help Obama. It's like, what? You're going to go do this and maybe start World War III for this idiot teleprompter reader? And John Kerry with a rubber face, it looks like a slee stack or something. I mean, I just don't know what to say anymore. What do you think's going on, Mitch?
Well, I don't know. I'm a former militia, paramilitary. And really what I think it is worldwide around that. It's just the right time of year to start a war and keep people in their weakest state. That's just my personal opinion. Because it's right before winter. It's right before the rainy season. It's right before anything that can keep your average individual down. That's my opinion anyway.
Listen, God bless you. Absolutely. Look, we are blind to this because we're not sick freaks. If you study sick freaks, you learn in criminology throughout history, they like to hurt innocent people. They like to dominate. They like ugly things. Hitler, and this was put out in German film reels, during the start of World War II, the first 2 or 3 years, actually, he would go by armored train to the front lines in France, in Poland, in Russia, and he would watch with telescopes. For sometimes he would have his doctors injecting with methamphetamine, and he would eat like 25 pastries, and he would just sit there eating candy bars and pastries, jumping around, hopping around, watching Stuka bombers, dive bombers burning in cities, and he would have them bring them film reels and photographs of piles of dead bodies, and black uniforms and burning cities were so beautiful. And I've read Hitler's writings. I'm not just believing propaganda. I've gone and read his writings about the art he loved. He didn't like modern art. He liked classical art, except for some new modern art that was like demons and devils. And there was one famous painting of a banshee and death, and he said, I love that painting. Those eyes, those are the eyes of my mother. And he was just really into death and nighttime rallies and torches and black uniforms and skull insignias and black bombers taking off, and just that's what he was into. And if people want to understand this, that's what we're dealing with. These people like it. They like blood, they like death, they like killing people, they like wars. Let's go to Doris in Tennessee. Thanks for holding.
Hey, I went to visit Chuck Baldwin. I got on a plane in Nashville. My husband and I, we went to Kalispell, Montana. We stayed there approximately 2 weeks and went to church. And we really liked Chuck. He's telling the truth. And I appreciate you having people like that on. And I also wanted to talk about Syria and what I think is going to happen, which, you know, really doesn't matter what I think, but I think it's a pretty good synopsis with what I hear you say about these missing nuclear weapons. Is that what it is, nuclear weapons? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. I had crew coming in here to give me an article when you were asking about nuclear weapons. Yes, our report is atomic warheads or hydrogen warheads out of the base in West Texas being transferred to South Carolina. That's what the base security and the base police and others were all there. It's mainly normal police, regular civilian police that are part of base security in front of the main officers. And the order was the base commander with no paperwork to transfer those out. Yes. Okay.
Now, I have a article that I found. It's Anonymous Shocking Current Events, where FEMA Region 3 has an alert. And the senator, a state senator, retired, Sheldon Songstad of South Dakota, issued an emergency FEMA Region 3 alert on August the 13th. Region 3 is, of course, you know, Washington, Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, West Virginia. And they have said that they have all these orders to get MRSA vaccinations, $11 million. The CDC has ordered $11 million.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And in fact, it's in the news regionally, not just on the East Coast, but all over the country. FEMA the last 6 months has been mobilizing like it's the end of the world. They've got National Guard called up on emergency alert in most areas of the country. They've never been called. The people I've talked to at like 4 a.m., you know, come in, you're not going to work for the next few weeks. It doesn't matter. The Chinese are on alert. The Russians are on alert. I mean, they're moving nuclear weapons around. On record, they've been deploying B-2 bombers and B-1 bombers to Diego Garcia. I mean, this is serious business.
Yes, I know. But I did get on a plane at the height of the global terrorist alert, and I traveled 2,300 miles to meet Chuck Baldwin because I saw him on your program, and I recognize a man of God when I see him.
He's a great guy. Man, I got to go. God bless you. Good to hear from you. More calls coming up, and Rappaport's joining us. By the way, Rand Paul is in the Senate right now debating Senator McCain and others. He's trying to get resolutions in there on the war powers to make them properly vote on this military authorization. We're going to Mr. Rappaport here in a moment. We'll continue with your phone calls with John Rappaport to give us his take on this. But let's fade up some of this debate that's going on right now for radio people.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Risch.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, Senator McCain's
I want to bring in Dana Bash, our chief congressional correspondent.
All right, that's enough. CNN cut over it. I wanted to play some of that because Rand Paul was arguing just seconds ago before we went live with him. But we recorded that, so we can probably have some of that later in the hour. This is historical, though. Just the fact that they're having to debate whether Congress is going to authorize a military strike, and then McCain's trying to say, well, we don't even really need this, but we want this. So there was a debate about, no, you do need this authorization. So, again, by resisting, we're forcing this debate out in the open, and we have right on our side, so that hurts them. Now, John Rappaport is a media analyst, investigative journalist, and frequent guest here on the broadcast, and he joins us for the balance of the hour to take phone calls and cover the news. But I wanted to just overall get your take here, John, on historically the point we're at. And I don't want you to just agree with me out of hand because I don't know your view right now on this. I want to get it. That I see this as one of the most historical things that's ever happened. You've got a mass awakening to the false flags. All these prominent people, from Rush Limbaugh to Pat Buchanan to Rand Paul, saying our government's behind al-Qaeda now. This looks like a false flag. This is unprecedented. The military's waking up en masse. The military's calling into this show saying they're against it. The media's trying to spin it and saying it's all fake. Well, is Rush Limbaugh and Pat Buchanan fake? And Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, are they fake? Is Alex Jones fake? No. The truth is this is all imploding. Secretary of State Kerry is saying if there's any more atrocities, it's those of us that are against the war, it's our fault. So they're trying to guilt us, which is just royally over the top and arrogant. And I see this as the moment that the New World Order really begins to collapse. It may take a month, it may take 5 years, but this is really a magic moment where more and more people are putting on the dark sunglasses and seeing the real world, a.k.a. they live. But we're at that critical juncture where the devils that run this may try an even bigger crisis to try to regain control over the world's psyche. So do you agree with me on that? And if so, if not, where do you think we are historically? Because I know you're a smart guy and talk about the mass psyche of the public. You said day one that it was a devastating victory against CNN when I blew up and put them on notice. So many people were scared up front and didn't like it. Weeks later, they said it was one of the most greatest moments ever. And when I talked to the producers, they said, we're not allowed to have you back on, even though we had 2 million plus viewers. He normally has 500,000 on that CNN show. And basically it's now seen, as you said it was, as a major time that the trance was broken. I see this as about 100 times bigger than that, maybe 1,000 times, and that this is a sea-changing event. We're going to break in a moment. This is a short segment, but John Rappaport, give us your take on how big this is.
Well, Alex, I've been doing nothing but writing about this for the last 2-3 days, one article after another, because I see it as this shifting, huge iceberg shifting, because so many people are now aware that this is a completely phony deal, yet another war that's being foisted on us for no good reason. There is no evidence. We're not allowed to see the evidence. Just as always, we have to take it on faith. And people are breaking out all over the place, whether it's in alternative media, whether it's even in some portions of mainstream media. Certain politicians are stepping forward and saying, hold on, this is phony, and we have a chance to do something about it here. Meanwhile, the war machine keeps on running on and on and on. You've got Kerry saying, well, maybe just a single attack isn't enough. Maybe it's going to have to be extended, etc. And he said today that the Arabs would pay for this whole thing, and that that would be fine with him, the entire invasion, meaning much more than a missile strike. I mean, talk about a clash of civilizations. This is it.
Oh, yeah, and they're saying boots on the ground. Wow, I can't wait to hear what else you're going to break down. Absolutely crystallizing what I've been trying to say in 2 hours and 2 minutes. We'll be right back with the amazing John Rappaport, your phone calls and more. But yeah, America and NATO now as mercenaries of Saudi Arabia, offering to pay to have Damascus turned over to them.
We're on the march.
By the way, just an update. We always correct ourselves when we're wrong. Even the mainstream media is the reason we're wrong. RT put out about 45 minutes ago that they had found that the rebels had made the chemical weapons and that it was the new chemical weapons. And then they updated it to say, no. The 2 separate times before we tested it, and that was confirmed earlier this year and last year, the UN tested it, it was not the types that the Syrian military has. Folks, we have WorldNet Daily last week with the videos that were uploaded on real jihadi sites that have been around for years of them loading the chemical mortars and firing them. And they are of the NATO type. So you can look that up for yourself. So, I mean, all of this is really passé now. So it's almost a minor point, though, because that's what I've been making the point over and over again, is that if you have the rebels caught by the Turks and others with chemical weapons, it gets tested, and they go, this is Western chemical weapons. They're not even trying to go and fake Russian-style systems, which they could do. They just don't care. They don't even care that for 2.5 years they've called the rebels protesters and activists. They did that in Libya. How dare the Libyans, or how dare the Egyptians, how dare the Syrians crack down on protesters? Protesters with rocket launchers, protesters with anti-aircraft missiles. This is all about Benghazi, folks. And the military, who knows about all this stuff, that's their business. They're really freaked out. Because as I've told you for 2.5 years, in Jordan, there are U.S., CIA contractors, because the main military isn't even really doing it, training brigade-level groups of jihadis on sabotage, you name it. And I've been telling you that for 2.5 years. Obama came out yesterday in the New York Times, said, I'm getting tough. We're sending in CIA-trained jihadis, commandos, out of Jordan. There have been contractor boots on the ground fighting Russians. There's been Russians dying. The jihadis have paraded them around on TV. I mean, U.S. troops are commanding al-Qaeda against Russians right now. And I'm not siding with Russia. My country's been hijacked by the New World Order and is doing all this. We're going back to John Rappaport and your calls, but here it is, Reuters. Putin presses U.S. Congress over Syria, says Kerry lied. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday the U.S. Congress had no right to approve the use of force against Syria without a decision from the UN Security Council, and that doing so would be an act of aggression. He said anything that is outside the UN Security Council is aggression, except self-defense. Now that Congress and the U.S. Senate are doing, in essence, is legalizing aggression. This is an inadmissible in principle. They lie beautifully. Of course, I saw debates in Congress. A congressman says, Mr. Kerry, is al-Qaeda there? He says, no, I am telling you responsibly that it's not. Putin said at a meeting of his Human Rights Council in the Kremlin. And then he goes on to say al-Qaeda units are the main military echelon, and they know this, he said, referring to the United States. It was unpleasant and surprising for me. We talked to them. We proceed from the assumption that they are direct people. But he is lying and knows he is lying. That's right. The Russian military is talking to the U.S. military, and the U.S. military is basically apologizing. And Dempsey's saying don't launch an attack. This is unprecedented to the level that Matt Drudge puts out a tweet saying Vladimir Putin is now the leader of the free world. This is disgusting that we are run by such rotten, nasty. I look at those senators up there attacking Rand Paul right now. They're all these old, nothing against old people, but these old, corrupt. An old person that's loving is very wonderful, but an old, evil, bloated, corrupt scumbags. They're all attacking Rand, acting like he doesn't know anything, acting like, but he's tearing them up right now on C-SPAN. We're taping it. And I sit there and I watch this spectacle. Let's go back to John Rappaport. John, crystallize all this for us historically. Where do you think it's going? How big a deal is this? And do you feel like vomiting when you look at Kerry? Because it's like all the humanity was sucked out of him, and he's a rubber suit now. I mean, just in the last month, John Kerry looks like a body snatcher took him over. I mean, it's like he's been cursed with his evil. John, what's your take on this? He froze. I was wondering, I said, he looks really still there the last few minutes. Looking at him on Skype, and his Skype's dead. He probably didn't even hear all that question. Oh, man, I tell you, as we hurtle along like an insane freight train. So we're going to get John's take on that while we're getting him on. Let's go to Jason in Missouri. You're on the air. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. Good afternoon to you. First and foremost, I want to thank God because without him, we wouldn't be there. Without him, you wouldn't be there either. And this is frightening. This is one of the scariest times in my life. I mean, I don't really fear anything. It's just looking at my kids and imagining these war machines going loose. Just seeing everything I've seen so far in my lifetime doesn't compare to these few moments, these few months that has passed, and we've seen this, everything they've done all come together. What scares me the most is that we are winning, and I know we're winning, and everybody knows we're winning. But when we're winning like this, it has them their back against the wall. That's what's frightened me the most, because when you have an animal back against the wall, they fight. Like, say, a robber robs a bank. When he gets put in a situation where he has to get out of that situation, he'll do anything. Anything. So that frightens me the most.
Well, sir, I absolutely agree with you. It's a cornered demon, and they're all going to go to prison. I mean, if one part of their criminal operation starts imploding, it'll all implode. And they know that, so they're very, very dangerous. And I'm going to ask John Rappaport, who we got back on the line, his take on that. That I'm going to give you the latest headlines on prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. There's some big breaking news right now. But John, you just heard his point. Where do you see this going? How do you think the empire will strike back with a false flag?
Well, it's quite likely that they will. You know, the whole thing was set up to give the false impression that, okay, Obama's going to the Congress and they're going to authorize this, and then there's going to be an attack and so forth. And that means all of a sudden Obama's a wartime president. And traditionally that means ratings, approval ratings go way up. Doesn't matter what it is. Okay, we attacked, ratings go up. But that's not happening this time. It's amazing that it's not happening. And regardless of whether we attack or don't attack, it's not going to happen. He's not going to get that same bump that all these so-called wartime presidents get.
You just said the key. Everything they're doing is the opposite of the Midas touch. Whatever they touch turns to absolute you-know-what.
Yep, absolutely. And they are absolutely at their wits' end. They don't know what to do because they're using the traditional playbook, right, of media, collusion with the government. They've got all their puppets out there saying, yes, we have to do this. Yes, we have to kill Syrians in order to save the presidency.
We've got to start World War III or we're immoral. Kerry said if we don't do this, any more death is our fault when they started it. They injected the commandos. They started it, and they've got the nerve to say we did it.
Yeah, and then Chris Matthews comes in and pretty much says, this is all about saving Obama's presidency, and we have to go to war and kill people in order to do that. Well, you know, people are now waking up when they hear this.
Yeah, we lost his Skype again. Something's going on today. It's usually real good with John. Man, he is such a smart guy. He just boils it all down directly. John is absolutely right. While we're getting him reconnected here, we might need to restart our Skype or have him restart. Breaking, Russia says Syria chemical weapons made by rebels last time, so that's evidence they did it this time. And I'm glad that's being pointed out because we've been pointing that out. It's like, does anybody forget they got caught doing this 3 separate times, twice? The UN had to admit that the evidence was that it wasn't Assad, i.e. the rebels. I mean, do we forget that? Oliver Stone slams push towards intervention in Syria. Syria, conservative icons put anti-war left to shame. And you've got Matt Drudge, Pat Buchanan, Rand Paul, and so many others. Rush Limbaugh, Amash, Congressman Amash. You've got Ted Cruz coming out saying the government runs al-Qaeda, saying it looks like a false flag. I mean, this is just the best news we've ever seen. Because, see, now it's safe for the general public to talk about this. Now it's safe for more in Congress to talk about it. Now it's safe for the military to come out and speak out against it. John, how big is it that all these prominent libertarians are coming out and conservatives and really showing they're good guys in the final equation? Because the neocons are all wanting this. Matt Drudge is saying, in fact, I have his quotes over here. I retweeted this at Real Alex Jones. He says, it's now authoritarianism versus libertarian. Since Democrats versus Republicans has been obliterated, no real difference between the parties.
Absolutely right. It's exactly the way he's putting it. It's people who want to be free, who want to get government out of all of this war machine business. They see through it in a second. It's a completely phony setup from the beginning. Kerry, as you said, you know, he looks like a corpse that they dragged in, who's pre-programmed to say what he's saying. Obama has absolutely nowhere to go here because he...
You know, I wonder what's going on with Kerry. I wonder what's going on with Kerry, that he does look like a reanimated corpse. His wife, I know she's been sick, looks like she's dying behind him, why he brought her. And he would when the others were speaking, he'd put his hands on the desk and lean his head down. And he's like this all the time now. Maybe he's dying or something. I mean, I'm just speculating here. But or maybe they've death threatened him into doing this. But I mean, you know, because I don't know what's going on, folks. But I mean, I'm telling you, it's scary to watch these hearings and to look at the scum that we have. Again, Mike's Skype continues to break up. We'll go to him whenever we get him back. Let's talk to Patrick in Louisiana. Patrick, you're on the air. Go ahead. What's your take?
Yes, Yeah, I was kind of wanted to float the idea of it seems like with so many people waking up that the goal is kind of being cornered, you know, this most dangerous time, that what if we float the idea of immunity for anybody who's willing to come forward and
yeah, the problem is we're not in control of the government yet, so we can't give that immunity. Once we ever do start sending these people to prison, it'll all fall like a house of cards. This has happened over and over again. All tyrants think they're invincible. All oligarchies think they're invincible. But this one is long in the tooth, degenerate, backstabbing, and now their Agenda 21 program is making everybody poor, and so the public's not going to go along with it now. The bread and circuses aren't quenching the mob's thirst anymore. But I'll tell you this, it's time for whistleblowers, just as the late, great Michael Hastings said, to all go public, and then they can't stop everybody. Okay, that's the answer. I appreciate your call. Anything else, Patrick?
No, it's just I've been a listener since 2000. It's so great. Your show just keeps on getting better and better, and I'm so glad everyone else is listening as well.
God bless you, sir. It's good to it's good to have you call into the broadcast, and God bless you. We appreciate you. All right, let's go ahead now, and let's go to John Rappaport. We've got back on phone this time. John, you've got the floor till we go to break. We're going to come back and take calls. Sorry, your Skype's breaking up. Continue making the points you were eloquently trying to get to.
Well, some of that is being reflected in what your callers are saying. Whistleblowers coming out of the closet, coming out of the woodwork, everywhere, all at once. That's the whole idea. It's momentum. You know, it builds up to a certain critical mass, which we've reached right now with this whole Syria episode. And people are talking. You know, people in the military are talking. They're saying, I don't want to go to war to fight on the side of al-Qaeda. This is ridiculous. There is no end game. What's the purpose of this whole thing? Where has it been stated that there's any reason for doing this? All Obama's been able to say is we have to make a statement, send a message, punish the blah, blah, blahs for doing this and that, when the evidence shows clearly that there's no reason to assume that this was Assad's chemical weapons to begin with. So the whole thing is falling apart like a house of cards, and none of the traditional methods of trying to prop up the government are working, because we've got now such a fantastically powerful alternative media that it can't work. It's just not going to work. He's not going to succeed, Obama, in this by getting any sort of bump in ratings or becoming a wartime president to pump up his other programs that he can't get support for. The other scandals are not going to go away by this distraction, Benghazi, et cetera, they're all going to stay on the table. They're at their wits' end. They have no game plan for this whatsoever, and it's exploding in their faces, their entire corrupt system, which is, you know, I just wrote an article this morning. The structure of the federal government is now a permanent war structure. That's what it is. And it's not just the Pentagon. You look at all the agencies, the FDA, the USDA, the CIA, the IRS. You just run them down one at a time. What are they all about? They're about searching out people who are breaking some kind of regulation that they don't even know they're breaking, and punishing them. This is war against the people. This is the way the government is structured. So it's very natural that they would say, well, we have to attack Syria because this is what we do. This is all that we do. This is what you're paying for. You people who are sinking further and further below the poverty line, this is what your taxes have been paying for, is a wartime permanent government on all fronts, domestically, foreign, in every other fashion possible. And so you're going to have to go along with this. But the response is, what level of insidious, hideous corruption is necessary to have this kind of government? And when you look at these people talking, Kerry, Obama, McCain, who's completely out of his mind. And I think that Kerry, I mean, he looks to me like a guy who's either been put in a trance or has been drugged to the gills or threatened in some possible way.
No, I mean, listen, that's why I'm freaked out, because I've watched C-SPAN since I was, in high school. That was like my soap operas when I was in high school. I would like watching it. I watched the Waco hearings, you name it. They all never look like this. They look like mentally ill, crazy people now. All of them, except for the few good guys. They all look handsome and sharp and awake, and they look like reanimated corpses. It's true. It's like they're the Legion of Satan or something. I mean, what do you think's going on?
I'm not sure, but I mean, you look at Harry Reid, Pelosi, Barney Frank, John Kerry, and then Boehner on the Republican side and other Republicans as well. I mean, these people look like they died a couple of years ago and they were brought back as, zombies. That's what they really do look like. And that's the way they're talking. It's like something that was pre-recorded out of the grave. They should have hideous organ music going on.
Yeah, something's going on. I mean, I actually last night went home and was like freaked out because there's like something else going on here. I mean, it's like a science fiction movie, like They Live or something. Next, you're going to tell me we're going to have Rowdy Roddy Piper on the show. Oh, we did yesterday. That video's up on Infowars.com.
America, pay attention.
And we caught the bloody British in a town in New Orleans.
All right, we're going to do a smidgen of overdrive to get to everybody's calls. John Rappaport's giving us his commentary today. John, in your gut, where do you see all this going? Because it's not like the Chinese and the Russians are going to save us. They're just as bad, just not as sophisticated as the globalists. Or maybe not as demonic as Skull and Bones Kerry, but it does seem like that everybody's woken up kind of to the paradigm, at least people that know how to tie their shoelaces. And you've got all these Democrats, though, showing how weird they are, saying, we need to go ahead and attack to prop up Obama. You've got the District of Columbia, District of Criminals, Congresswoman saying that. You've got Matthews, Slimeball saying it. Why do they like to get on MSNBC and say, yeah, we lie to you and say there's no drones, even though there are? Ha, 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 idiots. I mean, I guess it is that old thing of criminals love to brag, or is it a rubbing it in? I mean, would these people shoot themselves with or their children with a firing squad if Obama told them, all because Matthews gets a tingle up his leg, looking at Obama as like artificial Viagra for him?
I think it's like looking at a crime family. They stick together. And they don't care what they say or what they do or how crazy they look. They're basically telling us, hey, we're a crime family and we run the country. And this is what we're doing. And it doesn't matter. And we support each other. They're sending signals to each other is what they're doing.
Hey, let us start World War III.
It doesn't matter what's going to happen. I'm there. And I'll stick with you all the way, to the firing squad if necessary. And they just keep telling themselves that, only it's happening on television. It's happening on live TV that you're seeing these lunatics doing this. So what I think is going to happen, I mean, I don't like to get into too many predictions, but my prediction is, yeah, the Congress is going to approve it. They're going to go ahead. They're going to attack Syria. The media wall to wall are going to try to play it like this is a noble action and prop up Obama, and it ain't going to work. It's not going to work. It's only going to make things 1,000 times worse for them. That's what's going to happen.
And I think Russia will probably stand down, not wanting to cause World War III, but then that only encourages more aggression. But there's a good chance Assad is going to hit Israel. And if their missile defense doesn't work, Israel's gotten where they are because they have a lot of chutzpah. They may go ahead and nuke them.
Well, they're certainly going to respond, militarily, one way or another. There's no question about that. So, yeah, I mean, this whole thing could blow up into something that's why, obviously, these nuclear warheads were shifted, because, it's all about contingencies, and the Pentagon is well aware that when you just go charging like a bull into a china shop, okay, let's bomb Syria and send a message. that you're lighting up, 7 or 8 different countries all of a sudden who have proprietary interest in the whole region, and then you could get massive warfare developing out of that. You bet. Yeah, I think Russia's going to stand down, too, for now. But when they stand down, that doesn't mean that they don't do covert things. I mean, they're not going to just say, oh, well, we couldn't win this time. That's not the way they're going to play it.
And again, it's not like it's America running off and doing all this. It's globalists running us that are doing this. And I think Congress is leaning towards doing it, but I also see such a backlash. I think it's up to what we do, John. I think if we all call Congress, if we all call talk radio, and literally bully these bullies, beat them over the head that they're the ones that are going to cause World War III in the name of children, and hit that point about how the government's backing al-Qaeda, how America isn't al-Qaeda's Air Force, I think we can stop it. But Obama may go ahead and hit them anyways. We'll be right back in Overdrive, Infowars.com/show for the free video feeds. Please support our local AM and FM affiliates. Nightly News, 7 o'clock tonight. Are we choosing our own destiny?
Alex Jones.
So, you look into Pootie Poot's eyes. What do you see? Do you see a soul? George Bush said he saw his soul. Well, I wanted to suck it out of him. Give it to his skull and bones mate, John Kerry or something. I don't know. NoMoreFakeNews.com. We carry all his great stuff at Infowars.com. He's got an article out called Top 9 Reasons to Go to War with Syria. I'm going to cover it in the next segment with John Rappaport. And we're going to continue with your calls and Overdrive until we're done, at least for the top 5 or 6, like Charlie, Antonio, and Vince, and Eddie. Is there a reason Antonio was on my board twice? Did the same guy calling on 2 lines? I've never seen that before. Let's go to Charlie in California. You're on the air with John Rappaport. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I just want to thank both of you guys for all the hard work you guys are doing. And mainly what I wanted to say was a message to the American public. I believe today is that we're in a bunch of trouble, and you speak about it so truthfully every day, and I appreciate it. But the American people have to get involved today. Like I always give the analogy is most people are in the living room watching TV, and they're entertained, and I understand that. We've lived that life for quite a while, and look where it's got us.
They got to get out of the spectator mode.
Yeah, so then there's people in the kitchen. Those are the people that watch InfoWars. Those are the people that are informed, and they're just having a conversation with one another. As they keep talking about it, but there's no action behind their argument. See, the people that are going to make the change, the people that are going to make a difference are the ones that know the information, but actually go now and wake up the rest of the
that's a great analogy. Why does everybody always hang out in the kitchen? I know I always do that, too. That's why we moved out of a larger house into a lot smaller house, because I'm like, well, we don't need a big house. We live in the bedroom and the kitchen. And build a whole house where it's just a kitchen, I guess, and the bed comes down on the wall. But no, but that's true. You got the spectators that just watch TV all day and just think it's all entertainment. And you got those of us that actually live in the kitchen, and we're talking about reality here. That's a great analogy. Great point, Charlie. Comments on that, John Rappaport?
Yeah, the kitchen is a place where people actually sit down and talk and do a little thinking and get away from their crazy television sets. But even on the television now, you can see some voices speaking out and saying, this is insane, this is completely crazy. And they're trying to cut them off, and they're trying to say, oh, satellite connection went out on Ron Paul and CNN, and so we got to listen to Chris Matthews talk about how wonderful Obama is. But they're also transparent that it's rebounding against them. It's just preposterous. It's like zombies talking about how war is necessary.
It's like zombies trying to run the Philharmonic Orchestra. What do you call that when the propaganda starts feeding back and not working anymore in history? Because, I mean, I think it's a tipping point.
Yeah, it is definitely a tipping point. I mean, they used to call it blowback in intelligence agency parlance, and I just think it's the end of the imperial empire. I mean, when you try to go out, and you're right, the globalists are controlling the government ultimately. When you try to go out and just decimate populations and throw them into chaos and then move in with the banksters and take over and refinance the whole thing. And
that's bad mojo.
You just can't keep on doing that without getting people waking up. I mean, it's at a certain point, and we're at that point now, people from all sides of the political spectrum are saying, hey, wait a minute, this is insane. This has nothing to do with partisanship. It just has to do with, somebody wants to kill people. That's what they want to do. They think war is the highest human activity possible, and they want to pursue it. That's what it's all about. And we got to stop it.
And it is one of the highest human things if it's you fighting for your tribe against an invading group where it's there and that. But with the globalist, it's all about picking on little countries and tearing them apart and blowing up every church. Let me ask this when we come back. So remember this question, and we'll go more calls. Why do they hate Christians? I don't mean the glitterbug, Hagee types, that buy into, pro-government stuff, but why do the globalists want to destroy old Christian civilization around the world? Whether it's Orthodox, Protestant, Catholic, it doesn't matter. Why? I was just watching Senator Corker in the Senate hearing where they're trying to get this war authorization going to expand the illegal covert war of the last 2.5 years using al-Qaeda jihadi scumbags against the sovereign nation of Syria. And even Corker was saying, man, this thing is for like all-out war in the whole region. I mean, I'm going to support a war in Syria. I'm a good patriot. But this thing gives Obama the authorization to attack anywhere, basically, in the world. Well, that's what one of the top lawyers that worked for Bush said yesterday. We had an article about that on Infowars.com, that it was written for that. And I went and read it. It was clearly written that way. So they're doing amendments to strip that out now. But it just shows how when Kerry was asked yesterday by Senator Mendez, he was asked, you're not going to have boots on the ground, right? And he said, well, we might actually need boots on the ground. So we're going to get to that clip coming up in a few minutes. But to answer the question I posed before the break with John Rappaport, a political analyst, why do they love, at least from my perspective, to hunt down villages of Christians in Africa, Asia, Middle East, Latin America, you name it, the UN, the globalist? They love to kill Christians. Why is that from your deep research, or do you disagree with that statement, John Rappaport?
No, I don't disagree, and I think the reason is simple and clear, and it applies to other religions as well. If you believe that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness comes from a power higher than the government, then you're an enemy of the government, because they are saying, we gave you freedom. That's where it comes from, and therefore we could take it away. And these people are saying, just a minute, hold on, that's not the way we think, that's not what we believe, and we'll go to the wall with our belief that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness come from some higher power than the government. And that's it, period. End of story. That cannot be, countenanced by the globalists, because they have to destroy that, because they want a planet where everybody is brainwashed and hypnotized into believing that whatever they get, whatever's given to them, whatever freedom they have or don't have, it's all a function of the ruling class, and they can take it away anytime they want to. They can dole it out in small dribbles. They can just absolutely remove it, send you to prison, because government is the highest authority. And anybody who challenges that is right on their target list.
And by the way, John Rappaport, I didn't talk to you before the show today. I didn't talk to you in that last break. I asked you that question to see what you would say, and you gave, from my perspective, the absolute perfect answer of hundreds. Here is the current issue of InfoWars magazine for September 2013. And it's Obama as the Christ, and it says, thou shalt not have any gods above the state. And that's it. These people with Google and the AI, they say they're going to become God, Ray Kurzweil and others. They are God in their eyes, and they're a jealous God, and we shall have no gods above them. And people understand the psychology. They want to kill because that's the ultimate expression of playing God. They don't want to go take a walk in the beautiful woods or go fishing or hang out with their grandchildren. They want to murder people. And they get off on chopping children's heads off. It turned out Congress came out 6, 7 years ago when the torture news came out, many members of Congress for hours would go into classified briefing areas to watch the people being tortured, including children, and they would come out very invigorated and very excited. And so that's what this is all about. I mean, this is Hellraiser stuff, and you ask, why do they like to do this? Because it's who they are. And they're not just a god in their views, they're a god of death. They're a god of pain. They're a god of destruction. They're a god of starvation. What's in Spanish? Who's the female Grim Reaper they worship down in Mexico that's now bigger than Mary? They call her the skinny one.
Oh, yeah.
How do you say that in Spanish?
I don't know. But I understand what you're talking about. That's, you know, it's like saying, I have ultimate power. What is ultimate power? Power over life and death. That's my power. So you, who don't have the power, you're going to fall into line with whatever I give you or take away from you. And to prove what I can do, I'm going to kill you. There's the proof. There's the proof. And they prove, so they're essentially proving it to themselves. They're saying, okay, I can kill people. And therefore, that proves to me that I have ultimate power, because when I do that, nothing happens to me. See, I'm still here. And that's where they take, you know, this is like, where do you find power? Where do you find energy? Where do you find faith? Where do you find life? And most people find it in many other places, but certainly not in that place. But death is where these guys find it. That's where they get it from.
Well, you know, I don't want to kill anybody, but I tell you, my gut tells me it'd be good if these people weren't on the planet. It's Santa Muerte.
Oh, yeah.
Muerte. Yeah, we'll put up the little Grim Reaper that's so popular in Mexico now and worshipped by the cartels. Well, one cartel, one big group worships the male Grim Reaper, and then, but the female Grim Reaper, she's even more popular. And people have given up on Christ down there. They've decided that the God of death is going to deliver everything to them. And I guess that's where the whole world's going. And, of course, since they've been worshiping that particular deity, things have just gotten worse. And even if you don't believe in God or spiritual stuff, folks, what you focus on and what you believe and take for yourself as a template begins to manifest in the world. John Rappaport, do you agree with that statement?
Oh, absolutely, because then you live your life on that basis, and so that's what you produce, and that's what comes into being. No question about it, and especially over time, and especially when you've got these globalists who have been working on this plan of theirs for, you know, more than a century. I mean, they're essentially working to manifest their ultimate power over life and death. That's what it's all about. They feel they're entitled to it, and they're going to take it, and they do take it. And that's, you know, that's what they're playing. That's how they're doing it. And what's happening right now is in this Syrian episode, we're seeing it playing out. I mean, because they're essentially being very naked about the whole thing. We have the power. We can authorize it. Even if you guys don't authorize it, I can do it anyway, and I will. And that's the end of the story. I have power over life and death. I'll kill babies. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to send an email or a telegram or a message to Assad or whoever it is, or to al-Qaeda saying, stop it, I'm going to kill people. Well, then everybody backs up and says, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense. You're going to kill people that have nothing to do with this fiction that you've invented in the first place about chemical weapons, and then you're going to say that's payback for what you did? You know, I mean, that's a complete sociopath. That's somebody who's a total psychotic. And by the way, you've got another article up, about 20% of the population are now on psychoactive drugs. So there you go with part of the explanation, I'm sure, as to why many of these people that we're looking at in the government who look like zombies are acting the way they're acting.
Oh, yeah, they admit in the New Yorker magazine that 20% of the public is now on psychotropics, and they admit that the study shows it's that people don't have enough of the chemicals in their body, like serotonin, and that they could just give them that, and it's better. I can't believe there's an article in New Yorker magazine that's somewhat critical of psychotropics.
Yeah. And so how many people in the government does that include? What's John Kerry on? What's John McCain on? so that he can actually sit there in the middle of a debate and play poker on a little device held in his hand. I mean, the guy is totally wacko. If he's going to be bored, you'd think, okay, maybe he's reading a book or he's looking at news reports on his little device there. No, this guy is playing poker. And then, well, I was bored. And then he's the guy that says, we have to attack. Otherwise, we would be, quote, undermining the credibility of the United States of America and of the president. I mean, what drugs is he on? I've long written and said, we need an accounting of every public official and what medications they're on.
That's right. They're pushing for drug testing of the general public. How about they do monthly drug test and then it be published?
You bet. Monthly drug test. Oh, you mean this guy's on Zoloft, Paxil, Prozac, and he's on sleeping pills, and then he's also doing some kind of Adderall for speed, and he's voting in Congress and making statements about going to war? Hold on a minute. You bet. Let's have monthly.
Yeah, you could take one look at McCain and his wife and all the rest of it. These are certifiable lunatics.
Total.
Let's go ahead and take some phone calls here with John Rappaport. Let's go to Nick in Oklahoma. Thanks for holding, Nick. You're on the air.
Yes, I was in the Army for 6 years. I was in Bucha, Iraq with 10,000 detainees when I was there, so I know how FEMA camps run. I was in Afghanistan in Camp Marmel, that place where the SEAL team came out and killed Osama. I was there when that happened, but we never really saw them. But I just want to say something to all the veterans active duty out there. Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes. I want to tell all them, the caller earlier mentioned that a lot of them are scared. A lot of them are scared to come out and say something. And I just want to tell them all, you know, you don't have to worry about your reputation. You don't have to worry about being labeled as a crazy person, because now it's serious. This is dangerous stuff. We're talking about World War III. Nothing will matter after that. Your reputation, being labeled as a crazy, none of that will matter. Our kids and our future is at stake here.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've even got Rush Limbaugh going public and Matt Drudge and all these people saying, you know, clearly we're fighting for al-Qaeda and false flag and Pat Buchanan and all this. I mean, it's time. It's time to call it for what it is.
And I'm even, you know, you've got Oliver Stone up there saying the same thing. So it isn't just on the political right. You got people on all sides. You've got, I was just reading an article from, I think it was Truth Out, about various polls and so forth. I mean, the American people are completely realizing what's going on here. They're even now saying that the same CIA section, WINCAP, that twisted the evidence on WMDs in 2002 that led to the Iraqi war, they're the same section now responsible for evaluating the so-called evidence that Assad was using chemical weapons. It's a total farce.
Absolutely. I want to give some more info. Start getting tired for 3 hours on air and start reading stuff wrong. We're going to go to Nick, back to Nick in a minute, but I wanted to show people this article since you mentioned that. German intelligence claims evidence Assad responsible for chemical attack. They're taking the same Israeli intercepts that can be anybody talking on the phone, reportedly with a member of Hezbollah talking to somebody in the government saying Assad accidentally ordered the attack, and then showing no proof. And it was the Germans last time that helped put out fake intelligence on Iraq and stuff. So absolutely disgusting that Germany's acting like they won't be part of the strike, but they're there trying to get it going. And then what do you make of the French being such big cheerleaders, the French government? I mean, I guess Hollande wants a diversion.
Yeah, I guess they do, or they want some favors from America. I mean, they're sort of standing on the fence about the whole thing. So maybe there's money passing.
Why do you think the British Parliament, for the first time in 200-plus years, voted it down?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's enough people now, even in government, that are so sick and tired of this whole thing. And they know what the blowback is going to be. They understand now. They realize that the public is rising up and that the alternative media is exposing the truth, and they don't want to have to pay the price for that when it comes time to pay.
Yeah, I think it's even more than, I mean, I agree with you, but it's more than that. A lot of these people in government are not even evil. They've been compartmentalized, and they've kind of sold out. But now they're finding out what they sold out to. They thought they just sold out to the establishment and everything was just go on forever. They don't want to sell out to the Grim Reaper. They don't want to sell out to nuclear war. They don't want to sell out to bio war. They don't want to sell out to their grandkids all being 6 feet under.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And if there's one thing that the American people have to understand about this little episode here, it's what the dangers are that we talked about earlier. How all these other countries are going to want to get into the act, and anything could happen. Missiles fired from Syria to Israel. Israel responds with planes, bombs, missiles. Russia finally decides they have to get into the act. I mean, Saudi Arabia, on and on, and of course the United States. This is just a complete, World War III waiting to happen at any moment. And here, these zombies in Congress are arguing about whether or not the constitutional authority should be given to the president to launch a message, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, people have to realize this is way bigger than that.
Oh, yeah, I was watching the senators up there, including the chairman, and they're like, we need to send Assad a message for his chemical attack, which they have no proof.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a group known to lie about stuff, and Assad doesn't have the motive. I mean, I think that's really why people are waking up, is they're like, he's told they'll invade and attack if he uses chemical weapons, and then it happens. And then it's al-Qaeda that we're fighting for. It's just amazing. Nick, as a veteran and talking to other folks what's the sense of the military people you talk to about this?
Well, I got out about a year ago, but when I was in, I was always ridiculed when I'd bring up articles that I'd bring up from InfoWars, and people would just kind of shove it off as, whatever. But now they are totally proving themselves ignorant and stupid with everything that come out each day. They're looking more and more stupid, and that's what's. You mentioned earlier that as long as we keep slamming people with stuff and let them know that they're basically lying to us, we're eventually going to get through to everybody.
Absolutely, and I appreciate your call. It was Mark Twain that said, in the beginning, a patriot is a scarce man, hated and feared and scorned. But in time, when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot. Yeah. And we've hit the barbed wire, folks. I mean, I want to pat on the back all our listeners that have taken action, and pat myself and the crew on the back, just to say, hey, we're going in the right direction. And thank God that people have been out there to resist this and understand history, because if we don't know history, we repeat it. John?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you can throw a little Thomas Paine in there, too. These are the times to try men's souls. This is not some formal little debate happening in Congress right now. This is the exposure of an entire massive war machine operation controlled ultimately by the globalists. This is where they are going. They think they can get there and that they will be able to overcome any resistance, but...
That's a good question. What is Saudi Arabia, Israel, the globalists, the Germans, the big banks? I mean, even when warmongering England gets on the bleachers, because they can look at the angles on this, and historically now we become the bad guy. We become the Hitler. We become the Napoleon. How do they think they're going to get away with this? Because, I mean, I guess they're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Why do they think they can just keep winning? I don't get it.
Well, I think because they believe that they put into place oppressive enough governments that can control their own populations, and that people are so hypnotized and so put in a trance that they'll accept anything because they just want to survive. That's their calculation as far as I can see. They just think, okay, we control enough of the population, they're under our thumb, and therefore we can do anything, and it won't make any difference. But they're wrong. They're dead wrong.
Well said, John Rappaport. Absolutely well said. There's a lot of news up on Infowars.com and Prisonplanet.com that's been breaking. One of them is Syria. Conservative icons put anti-war left to shame. Drudge, Buchanan, Rand Paul, Justin Amash highlight hypocrisy of Obama supporters. So does Ted Cruz. We need to get that added to the article. But it's so important that we get this article out to everybody and people retweet it from Real Alex Jones. Let's jam in a few final calls here. Antonio in New Jersey, thanks for holding her on the air with John Rappaport.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, hi, Alex. Actually, the first time I listened to your show was quite interesting. It was on September 11 of 2001. And you had an interesting host on your show by the name of Lyndon LaRouche. Hello?
Yeah, you're on air, brother.
Okay. Yes, and he was talking about how this was a false flag, an inside job. And, you know, at the time it was unclear. And when you said this to a lot of people, people would think, oh, you know, you're crazy conspiracy. But now it's all clear, all along what's been going on, is that you have an Anglo-Saudi alliance. These really just a small piece of it, not major, took down our security on 9/11 and funded the whole operation to get us into this war in Iraq. Well, it is that same apparatus that President Obama has been protecting all along. In fact, it was Obama that didn't want the 9/11 Commission documents that exposed how Prince Bandar bin Sultan, who's on the board.
Sure. He's the same guy that. He's the same guy just threatening last week the Russians with terror attacks with al-Qaeda if they didn't do what they're told. No, I mean, I think that's the answer to all this, and I appreciate your call, sir, is that the globalists think they're going to nuclear blackmail the world and just basically get everybody to go along with them, shut up the planetary government, turn off the resources, and then soft kill everybody, and we've got to stand against them. Because, it's, you know, if they were going to kill everybody to really save the earth, in their view, that'd be bad enough. But these are psycho demons that just say they're going to kill everybody to save the earth to their lower-level minions. That they want to kill everybody because they're a bunch of demon-possessed goblins from the 10th dimension. John Rappaport, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go out with Under My Thumb. That's what they think we are. I say we're not. Thank you so much, John Rappaport.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it very much.
All right, Lord willing, we'll see you back tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Get the story about the missing nukes at Infowars.com. I'm not under John Kerry's thumb. I'm in God's heart, ladies and gentlemen. God is in my heart.